Welcome to our live edition of the broadcast, and tonight we're going to go commercial free. I'm just making sure everything is set up so we're not interrupted by commercials or any craziness. And of course we'll have a few breaks here and there because we can't just talk for 3 hours straight. That's just completely crazy. So as soon as I get this set up, we're going to get going here. Okay, I think we are in business. Alrighty. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so tonight we're going to be commercial free, and I'm about to bring on my guest. He's a fellow Oracle broadcasting host, and he's none other than the Celtic Rebel. In fact, let's conference him in. Here we go. Alright, I believe we have the Celtic Rebel. How you doing? Do we have you? Well, maybe not. Hello, Mr. Rebel. Do we have you? Okay, well, we're going to have to work out some technical difficulties here, but I think he is there. All right, well, we'll just have to wait and see. In fact, why don't we do this? Let's play some tunes real quick while we get this all straightened out, and then we'll begin the broadcast, because we have a lot of important information to get into, a lot of different current events, and, well, just a myriad of stuff that we're going to cover during the broadcast. So let me just play some music. Let's get this straightened out. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I believe we are back. All right, here we go. Fade down that bumper music. So joining me on tonight's show is none other than, excuse me, if I can talk straight here. None other than fellow Oracle broadcasting host, the Celtic Rebel. You can listen to his show every Sunday at 10 p.m. Central Standard Time. It's a 4-hour show. Lots of interesting information on that broadcast. Definitely encourage everybody to check it out. And how you doing, Mr. Rebel?
I am doing fine. Just a little bit of a minor snafu setting up. One of the computers wasn't responding, but we're good now.
Oh, that's okay. That's what live radio is all about. I mean, you know, we're flying by the seat of our pants here. So anyway, we're going to be here for the next 3 hours. Got a lot of stuff I want to talk about, and I know there's a lot of stuff that you want to get into as well. And I guess
Definitely.
the first thing I wanted to ask you is I haven't really had the chance to listen to a lot of your recent shows, so I just want to get kind of a feel as to what you've been doing over the past several months, and maybe give the listeners a little bit of an idea as to what you've been doing.
I've done some really, in my own opinion, outstanding shows over the last month or so. Some things that I don't think anybody else has really ever gotten into, including subjects that I know I have never heard anyone discuss, and the kind of stuff that, I know a lot of people in this conspiracy movement, they'll say, you need to go and look this up yourself. Well, what's happening right now is we're finding that the common filter, whether you like it or not, is that Google has control over what kind of results you will find, where you might go. And it's become a very good tool, which I don't think it's that greatly in use right now, but as it speaks for itself, for controlling information. And I've done a couple of shows on mysterious drowning deaths, where there's just no information out there. But this is a huge problem. So I'm trying to go beyond, let's just say, and this is one of the things I want to address today, the approved conspiracy discussion forum.
Right. And there's certainly this element that you see where there are these prepackaged, preconceived notions that appear to be put out there by design so that people will parrot those particular concepts and ideas. I'm sure you'll agree.
Definitely. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I did a show on how to be a man. There's something you don't hear discussed in this conspiracy movement. What does that mean to be a man? It's far more important than figuring out, what year the Illuminati was founded and what horse rider was allegedly struck by Zeus or something.
By Zeus? That's a new one. Well, sure.
When somebody gets struck by lightning, I mean, it's Zeus. Who else is it?
Yeah, well, that's a good point. I mean, one of the things that you're mentioning here, how to be a man, it seems like a lot of people, especially, well, of course, males, have forgotten what it's like to be one. And we see it. I mean, if you just go out into society, you'll see that this is very much the case. In fact, you got women acting more like men than men do, as crazy as that sounds.
Oh, that's exactly the case, and that's what we addressed. You know, today's young men, if they are our future, the future's lost. It's done. It's gone.
Yeah, well, I agree. I mean, I just take a look at just the way society's been programmed, and clearly it's designed so that females are supposed to act more manly and men are supposed to act more feminine. And you definitely see it with the programming, a lot of this pop culture filth that's coming out from Hollywood and through the TV set. It's just nonstop. In fact, it was interesting. Right before I came on air, I was watching this film that came out back in the 1990s called Starship Troopers. And if you take a look at that film, there's kind of, well, actually, I shouldn't say kind of. There absolutely is a good amount of propaganda that are kind of leading people to believe that the sexes should be more blurred and that the men, again, should be acting more like women and the women should be acting more like men, kind of like a whole androgynous thing going on.
Yeah, exactly. You know, including the military having group showers where men and women shower each other and don't think anything of it. Look, if you're in a shower
exactly.
with a member of the opposite sex and it's not stimulating for you, there's something really wrong with you.
Well, yeah, there's that one scene in the film where they're all showering and they don't act like it's any big deal. There's men and women naked showering together, and then Dina Meyer comes by, and I mean she's a very attractive woman, and she's one of the actresses in the film, and they act like it's no big deal. In fact, the main character of the film is basically trying to do everything he can to stave off her advances, which is just crazy. I mean, you see Dina Meyer, I think that's her name, the actress.
You talking about the redhead?
Yeah, I forget the character's name, but she's the one that's kind of has a thing for the main character.
Oh, well, yeah, but on the other hand, you look at the other girl, the brunette. I forget what her name is.
Denise Richards.
She's got a really bad case of arthritis. And for those of you who don't get that joke, stick your hands out in front of you and pretend you have arthritis, and I mean she's got like a really healthy case of arthritis.
I think you're referring to Denise Richards.
Yeah, Denise Richards. She's got a nice set. So maybe that's part of the thing. But if you really watch the film, it really is about effeminization of men. Okay, because what is he doing? You know, here he is. He's got an opportunity to be with a woman. And instead, like a little girl, he's pining for his boyfriend who's off somewhere else.
It's just a really weird movie. But yeah, there's just some strange references there. And, of course, just a lot of very sadistic propaganda contained in the film. And it's interesting when you go back and you look at some of these older films. It's hard to believe that film came out like 14 years ago, but it's just an unbelievable amount of propaganda in there. And I'm sure you can take a look at a lot of our films dating back to the 1990s, 1980s, of course, 1970s, and you can see a lot of the similar types of things if you go back and you analyze it after seeing with a fresh set of eyes.
Definitely. But moving on to where we're going.
Yeah, I didn't mean to get off on
no, I didn't want to go off track.
Troopers. I know we got a lot of other stuff to talk about.
Yeah, well, it's kind of connected because we will be talking about a lot of very, very effeminate men that have forgotten how to be men. So maybe that is appropriate.
That's true. We're gonna get into some interesting subjects. Let's just say that much. Now, I guess the first thing I want to talk about with you, I mean, we got a lot of topics I want to get into, but
can I say something before we get there?
Yes, absolutely. We're commercial free. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I know you've gotten rid of your chat room, and I think it's a safe bet based on the hints you gave out about what we might be talking about, that there will be more trolls, misfits, degenerates, and operatives listening to this broadcast than any other in history in alternative media. I think that's a safe bet at this point.
I think you're right, because one of the things I notice is that my show and your show, we probably have two of the most hated radio broadcasts anywhere that I've seen. Do you think that's a fair statement?
I think that is a very fair assessment without being even slightly egotistical.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just stating it because I believe it's a fact. Now, but before we get to our stuff, I just want to ask you this. I mean, how many people do you think are actively trolling your radio broadcast on any given day that you do a show? I'm sure it's just a ridiculous amount.
You mean trying to disrupt it?
Yes.
We used to get a lot, and what I've done, and this is the announcement I want to make, is I know you've gotten rid of your chat room. You tried to get rid of your chat room, but the trolls recreated one for you.
Right, they decided they want to make one for me because they're such great fans of the show. So I just want to thank them for that. But go ahead. Sorry.
I do want to let any listening that do not want to spend their time in the company of trolls, degenerates, and be either paid operatives or guys that really have nothing else better to do. I do have a troll-free chat room that you guys have an option of going to, and it's thecelticrebel.chatango.com.
Excellent.
And
all right. Well, that's good.
I almost said my operatives, dun, dun, dun. My moderators are just really good. You know, I have a lot of people to answer your question coming in weekly, but they've gotten discouraged because they don't last long.
Right.
Okay, and you know, there's a point to taking constructive criticism, and there's just people come in and go, "You're fag." Okay, yeah, that's really productive.
Right. I mean, that does not. When you do that, that's not the sign of an intelligent conversation, and there's no reason to continue that. And that's what I found that was happening with my chat room is just the fact that it seemed as if there were a lot of people that were just going in there just for the case of just making ridiculous statements and just disrupting things. And I tried an experiment. I tried to have a chat room where I would let anybody say whatever they wanted. And, well, unfortunately, it just turned into just a huge mess. And it's unfortunate because I want people to be able to express themselves. I've let people call into my show and pretty much bring up any sort of topics that they've wanted to for the past 3 or 4 years. And what I've come to find out is that a lot of people, even a lot of callers will call in just to waste your time or to spend just a ridiculous amount of time just talking about nonsensical theories that don't have any sort of factual basis backing it up. I don't know if you run into that in your show.
I really don't take that many calls. Since my show runs late at night, I usually take the calls during the last hour, and that's not the reason for it. Just because I have a lot of information to get through when I do a show, and I try to have a complete show. Because I do once versus you, where you do a daily show. I do a once a week show, so I really try to pack as much. I have got a lot of information to pack into it, so I really find myself in a drop information. So usually, if I don't feel like I've covered a topic enough, I usually don't take calls until the last hour, half hour, and at that point, the real diehard trolls, they give up after waiting on hold for the first 2 hours. So I don't have that much of a problem with it.
Yeah, I guess if you make them wait for 2 hours, they're going to be less inclined to stay on the line.
Yeah, or because they have to go to work or troll somebody else in the morning. I guess they have to troll Giuliani in the morning so they can't stay up too late.
Yeah, absolutely. They got to make sure they troll his show too. Yeah, it's completely ridiculous. But anyway, moving on beyond that, I guess one of the main things that I want to discuss with you today is just the current state of the, I guess you call it the conspiracy research community or the truth community. I don't even know what sort of label you can put on this thing, but and I know you've noticed the same things that I've noticed. It's just the fact that there's a lot of shady characters and a lot of very unscrupulous individuals that are tied in with this thing. And I was just wondering if you could comment on some of that. Then we'll get into more specific cases, but I just get the feeling that there's always been this shady element. Ever since I started doing this for the past 4 years, there's always been this shady element of people that have been loosely associated with this so-called movement. And I've always had a real problem with that. I'd like to get your take on that.
Yeah, I definitely noticed it early on. And, early on because we all fell into this sort of you can call it a trap, you can call it a path that was set before us to make us think we chose it ourselves, where, we were exposed to a lot of information. We saw the world around us crumbling and collapsing, and we wanted to do something about it, make a difference, right?
Right, absolutely.
That's why I got into it. I assume that you as well.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And early on, because you believe that, okay, it's us against them, and we're the people, and them are these, whoever, let's call it the Illuminati, let's call it whatever, right?
Yeah, New World Order, whatever it is.
Yeah, the New World Order. That's probably the best term for it, because that encompasses everything. And we have to fight it. And yeah, you run into people and you're going, they just seem a little shady. And you just think, all right, well, they're the exception.
Right.
And it seems to me, the more time I spent in it, I just ran into more and more people that I was just very, very leery of.
Right. It's the rule, not the exception.
Exactly. Now it's not a matter of, there's a certain amount of paranoia that's inherent to this business.
Yes.
Because, again, as this was being all revealed to us, we were under the impression that, we could end up on a government watch list, or we could be black bagged or something like that. Of course, there's a fear there. And maybe that was kind of a test. One of the things I did several months ago is I actually divorced myself from the truth movement, saying I want no connection to it at all. I mean, I still have an indirect connection to it through, I guess, the station, right?
Right. I guess I do too as well. But I understand what you're saying. It's the fact that you don't want to be pigeonholed as being part of some group or something that's being led astray. Like I believe of course, the mainstream truth and conspiracy movement is, and I'm sure you agree with that.
Yeah, and one of the main reasons I did it was, it just seemed to me the more I looked at it, once I started thinking for myself versus regurgitating a lot of the stuff that we were told early on, that this was very fake from the very beginning. There was nothing organic about the movement. There's movies, like The Matrix that came out, a lot of movies that came out in the late and early and mid 90s that seemed to program our lexicon for us. So what I heard was a lot of hosts going, it's time to wake up. It's time to wake up. We're going to go deep into the rabbit hole, or the rabbit hole goes deep. We're going to take the right pill. It's like the lexicon was given to us.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a lot of those terms, they definitely came from the 1999 film, The Matrix. And I know you've covered this. There's been a lot of very interesting films that came out in 1999, like Fight Club, but for example, is another one.
That's another one, and it's got a very strong homoerotic theme, and also a lot of the programming that, they even had, here we are at ground zero waiting for the towers to collapse. Okay, that's not coincidence. That's not synchronicity. That is a program, a neurolinguistic program that's put into place to get people, and coincidentally, after the event happened that we had been so greatly prepared for, one of the things I brought up in my show is, a lot of people have made a big hubbub about, if you watch a scene where Neo gets interrogated by the Agent Smith, they have his passport out in front of him, and his passport expires on September 11th, 2001.
Yes. Yep.
And there's people out there that are relatively smart, and they're saying, well, this is synchronicity, this is chance. No, it's because that's when the program that they were installing in your head was set to take place. That's why his passport expired on September 11th, 2001.
That was by design, and nothing in these Hollywood films is put in there by mistake.
No, nothing. Absolutely nothing. You have editors, you have people looking at every frame of film before it actually hits things don't slip in there accidentally.
Exactly. I mean, you take a look at the credit rolls, and how many hundreds of people do you see in the credit rolls? I mean, they pay a lot of money for those people to be on staff to make these films.
Exactly. So it seems to me that after 9/11, there was a huge flood of occult information that came out that hadn't really been widely available before. But all of a sudden, here it is. It's everywhere, right?
Yes. And it was more visible than before. I mean, you could find it prior to September 11th, but that was, of course, prior to the real push where people had fast access to the internet. People were still on dial-up in the mid to late 90s. That was when broadband was first getting started.
Yeah, good luck watching Loose Change on dial-up, right?
Right. That's not going to be a very good viewing experience.
Yeah, unless it's 8 seconds long and it has some girl masturbating at the end, it ain't going to make it on there. Nobody's going to watch it.
Yeah, that was a time when people would go onto, well, actually it was a little bit before that, but people would go onto BBSs and they download these GIF files, pornographic images.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it would take I don't know how long to download one file, and you're just waiting for the file.
45 minutes to download basically a 10-second GIF of basically 15 frames.
Yeah, exactly. It was ridiculous, completely insane. But obviously, since they knew internet speeds were going to get faster, they had to have something in place because they knew that information was going to travel exponentially faster. And I think that's largely why we have this amalgamation of this truth movement or this conspiracy movement that's been set up in place as a result of what was going to happen, because they knew what was going to happen.
They knew.
Exactly. So I believe, and I think you agree, that this entire truth movement, we can start with Alex Jones and we can move on to some of these other people, but I think it's safe to say that a lot of this was set up, pre-planned, and in advance of people actually finding out the truth about 9/11, so they fall into this new paradigm, this new control, if
exactly.
you will.
And I think part of it is an experiment, but it's also trying to lead us toward a certain cause, and we'll get to that. I want to get to the people in this, but before we get to like the level of people, I'd like to get to the higher level ones.
Yeah, sure.
The ones that are obvious, I think. But let's say before we even get to them, one of the things I want to mention, I think this is something you'll agree with me on, is I know there's a lot of people in this business that make predictions, right?
There's too many people who make predictions, and half the time, actually more than half the time, they're wrong.
Actually, are they ever right?
That's a good question. I mean, I can't think of one time where somebody who's been sending out these crazy emails has been 100% right on anything that they've sent out. I mean, the only prediction that is hype as being 100% accurate was of course, the Alex Jones and Bill Cooper predictions of 9/11. And even those you could kind of debate, okay, well, they really predict 9/11? Yeah, maybe kind of, but, I mean...
Yeah, and there's a lot of debate
there's a lot you can draw from that.
Because apparently, a few people involved in making movies like The Matrix and Fight Club knew this well ahead of time. Same thing with all the movies that, showed 9/11 in that. It's not synchronicity. There's a method to these people's madness. So, and we'll get to Jones, but if this guy is not who he says he is, and he may as well be in bed with those who might make a movie like The Matrix and show you Neo's passport. And again, it's a small group. It's not everybody involved with The Matrix had some clue what was going on there.
Right.
Then he probably knew.
Right, exactly.
And what a perfect way to springboard your career and become the man of the conspira movement, or whatever you want to call it,
Right. Well, between that and the supposed Bohemian Grove infiltration, which I now believe was completely staged and faked, it really set the stage for him to appear on shows like Coast to Coast AM and be really drawn to a lot of these mainstream media outlets where they could put him on for a brief period of time. Then people will start asking, okay, well, who is this guy? Why is the mainstream media not talking about him? And,
and also when we first got out there, and I'm sure you remember, and I'm sure a lot of people listening, when you first find out that the world is not what you thought it was, you've got a thirst or a hunger for information, so you're out there in the net looking for anything you can find. And what do you keep finding? Alex Jones this, Alex Jones that, Alex Jones that. It was all over the internet.
Yeah, and what's really funny is that this guy claims that YouTube has been censoring him, but if you go and you type in Alex Jones into YouTube, you'll find thousands upon thousands of videos. I wouldn't be surprised if there's over 10,000, maybe 30,000 Alex Jones-related videos up there on YouTube, and that's not by accident.
If I type Celtic Rebel into YouTube, I get Alex Jones. I mean,
I believe it. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure if you type my name in there, you might get something as well. It's completely insane. So you basically have this whole truth and conspiracy movement that's centered around one cult of personality figure. And that, to me, is extremely disturbing and should raise red flags. And you can think what you want about what we're saying here. The fact that this entire so-called movement is centered around one individual person, you have to ask some serious questions about this. I mean, do you agree?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, and there's some material I want to get to which will make some other connections around him. Again, we can speak of him, but yeah, there's just so much shady stuff going on around him, his camp, the city he lives in, and this entire movement as a whole. One of the things I wanted to address as far as me, why people are like, well, aren't you working for them then? If you tell us to get away from the conspiracy movement or to the truth movement, aren't you doing what they want? Don't they want to destroy it? No, they don't. They don't want to destroy it, or else otherwise they wouldn't have created it. One of the things I predicted, as far as me making a prediction, is that we went from a period of just complete ignorance to now everybody knows something about this, whether or not it's right or wrong. But this is also a huge change in your belief of how the world functions. And one of the things I predicted a while back when I said get away from the truth movement, get out of it, don't have anything to do with it, is that you were going to see a lot of people, think about how long this has been going on, people being exposed to conspiracy after conspiracy after conspiracy that they previously had no knowledge of. I predicted a lot of people were going to start going a little crazy, if not just, right downright batshit insane.
Well, they've gone completely mad because there are so many people out there that are actually promoting these theories about things. And as I said before, they have no factual basis, but you see these email chains that are sent out.
Oh, yeah.
Of people saying Planet X is going to come kill us in 2012. with no factual basis. Just because there's a CNN video clip, they say, oh, this is proof. And they go on and on about all these doomsday events, and that's just one aspect of it. There's just so much insane stuff out there, and I think you're correct. That there's an element of people, I don't think they're necessarily agents, but I think the problem is that they mentally can't handle a lot of this conspiracy information that's being thrown at them because there's just so much info related to conspiracies that they start to think that everything is a conspiracy, and they almost turn into a borderline schizophrenic.
Exactly. This paranoid nutcases. And where there is no conspiracy, they create their own.
Yeah, they have to invent one.
Yeah. I have heard the most absurd conspiracy. Again, not even a basis in reason. It's just somebody goes, oh, well, this person said this, so therefore they must be connected to this group, and then because they once spoke to this person, they're connected to that person. You know, this, I'm sure you've seen it. Just utter nonsense.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, and it shows that these people, it's not a sign of lack of intelligence necessarily. It's a sign of extreme paranoia. It's a sign which you might see in somebody who's either like sleep deprived or socially deprived, you know, somebody who spends too much time in isolation, plus also the flood of information they got before, because at this point they don't know what's real and what isn't anymore. And I think this is they kind of hope this would happen. They want to see people going insane.
Well, I think they've successfully, they've certainly been successful at that. Let's just leave it at that. And yeah, I mean, because I can't tell you how many times I've gotten phone calls into the show and people emailing me with just some crazy, crazy topics. And I've tried to entertain this stuff for a while, but it started to get out of control. I've noticed, I mentioned this on a previous show, but there's really, really good people that have called into my show, really intelligent people. I would say a lot of these people are probably much more well-researched and know a lot more about what's going on than I do. But then you have other people on the other end of the spectrum that are just totally lost and are just spouting out a lot of this schizophrenic nonsense that you were getting into.
Yeah. Well, I've actually had a few conversations with some people in intelligence circles. Claim to be retired. I don't know. You know,
there's a lot of people out there that claim that they're former or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, one guy, I know he is. Okay. He was disabled, whatnot. I can't, say too much. But anyway, I've talked with people, and I kind of see how it works. And also you can read about some things like that as far as what's been revealed. It's always hard to tell because there's a sea of information out there. But it seems like the way that intelligence agencies have learned to operate is whenever something happens, I don't care what it is, if it's, 9/11, some heist or robbery, it doesn't matter. An assassination, they take somebody out, whatever. What you have is the truth and you have the lie. Okay, the lie is what's told out to the masses, right?
Right.
This is the cover story. And then somewhere you have the truth. Well, the job of any intelligence operative is to create conspiracy theories between the truth and the lie. And the more they can create, the less likely that anybody will ever get to the truth.
Absolutely, and I've talked about the same phenomenon on my show several times. And you can take any example. You can look at JFK, you can look at 9/11. Yeah. I mean, let's just look at 9/11, for example, just since most people who are listening to this show are probably familiar with that more so than JFK. With 9/11, you had the official story, 19 Arab hijackers, Osama bin Laden, and all that. But then, in terms of the alternative media, you have, let's say, okay, you have the controlled demolition theory, which it's probably one of the more plausible theories that you can look at. But then you have like 3 or 4 other theories that are thrown out there, and then those people say that the people talking about controlled demolition, well, they're the ones that are part of the conspiracy because they're covering up the full truth. And here's the thing. We have all these conspiracies going back and forth, and you have certain people that are promoting these conspiracies. You can never 100% determine what the truth is, and that's why I say that's most important, just to prove what the official story is to be a lie. And then you can move on. But there are some people who are just not, I guess, they just can't deal with just having that as being the way to go. They have to go the next level, and they have to try to prove their own little conspiracy theories 100% correct, when there's no way you can possibly do that.
No, there is no way at this point because there's so many false leads. And even the controlled demolition theory is suspect because who did they attach to it? They attached that guy that used to be in Alex Jones, Stephen Jones, right?
Yeah, the more I've looked into that guy, there's definitely some suspicious ties with him.
Exactly.
And
so
plus,
here they are.
He's a Mormon too, which that's I mean, not to say that all Mormons are evil or anything or a part of a conspiracy, but certainly when we look at the Mormon Church, there's an element that's been tied to the John Birch Society, and it goes on and on. That's a whole show of itself, but there's definitely some suspicious ties with Dr. Stephen Jones.
Yeah, and his connection to cold fusion research, or how he dismissed it. He was a proponent of hot fusion, which is just, there's a lot of things that but see, that's how you do it. You look at, we talk about 9/11. Let's look at the JFK assassination. Nobody will ever figure out. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who killed him, because there's so many false leads to follow that nobody's even going to know anymore at the end of the day. At the end of the day, if you find out who killed him, does it really matter?
No, it doesn't. How does that change anything if all of a sudden we know 100% what happened with the JFK assassination? We know that we were lied to. We know the official story is not what they said it was. But they use that official story as a means to justify whatever agenda that they have. And that's what they did.
I tell you, what we have now, and this is another reason why some people might say, why do you want us to get out of conspiracy theories? Because what I see, what these conspiracists are doing, you have a lot of people that this is their life, listening to shows like ours, and they'll listen to show after show. It doesn't matter what you tell them. They'll just go from next show to next show. They just want more. They just want more. And if Oracle's not on, they might listen to Alex Jones. And if they might listen to some other station. Well, what a lot of these people are doing now is they're creating these conspiracies where none exist, but they're doing the job of the intelligence agencies.
That's right, because they're spreading more conspiracy theories and putting more doubt in people's minds as to what may or may not be going on.
Yeah, and then, again, they're not really based on anything. And I think that the intelligence agencies are really happy with us now. They're like, hey, you know what? That money we were going to spend on disinfo operatives, we can now spend on coke and hookers.
Well, yeah, because there are people doing the dirty work for them. They might not know it, but they are, because they probably don't know what they're doing, but basically what they're doing, again, is that they're putting out all this crazy information so that people don't know what to think. And it also serves as a way for the average zombie to look at all this stuff and say, well, these people are nuts. Look at what they're talking about. This stuff has no basis in reality, and a lot of it doesn't. And that's what turns off a lot of people from looking deeper into certain issues and topics that would otherwise change the way that they view the world.
Yeah. And I mean, it's scary to me when I see this happening. And I think these people are going insane. And I'll tell you what, I don't spend any time here when I'm at home, worrying that some agent's going to come black bag me and take me away to Gitmo or kill me or something like that. I'm more worried about some crazy conspiracy theorist who is convinced the world's run by Satanists, or some shadowy Illuminati is going to show up on my front doorstep with a knife going, "You're one of them!" That's what I worry more about.
Exactly. And this is one of the points I want to bring up. Ever since I got involved with this and did research on the New World Order and all these different topics, I have come to find out that I've seen, at least from a personal level, I've seen people do more rotten things to me from the so-called truth movement than the actual New World Order itself. Now, if the New World Order look, I understand. I'm not a fan of the system. I don't like the system at all. I think it sucks. But the fact that I have people in the so-called truth movement doing more nasty things to me than the New World Order, I think it says that either the truth movement is the New World Order, or you have people that are just, they're promoting the agenda of the New World Order indirectly.
A bunch of unpaid operatives.
Yeah, I think you're right to a certain extent.
Yeah, I don't think this info was meant for everyone, ever. I think this is one of the reasons why the old orders used to keep it in graduated degrees and only give it to those who are worthy. Because there are people out there who I can tell you for a fact, this is making them insane.
Maybe that's why they decided to keep information secret. Because they knew it would turn people insane.
Except now, I guess it fits the agenda that this has been released. That's the part I'm suspicious of. And I think you addressed this yesterday for a bit, what's going down Wall Street, which I guess a lot of people are really upset with you about, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, here's the thing. I mean, I have my regular day job, and during my lunchtime, I said, hey, you know what, I'm going to write an article about this Occupy Wall Street protest, because really you have a bunch of people down there that are really communist and socialist. And so I wrote my article. I didn't think it was going to get that much attention, but man, it started up a firestorm. All sorts of people commenting on it, saying all sorts of nasty things about me, saying I'm an agent. I think somebody may have wished me dead. I don't know what they said on there specifically, but let's just say the comments weren't overly positive. There were some positive comments, but there were a lot of negative comments. So I was really surprised by that. But do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, this is the kind of stuff that scares me, because there's a lot of people out there who don't have a clue what's going on. They're being used for things they know nothing about, and all they can do is repeat these. I mean, there's probably, like, if you were to try to like swing a dead cat, like, I don't know, that's a weird expression. Probably not for cat people. I don't know, some expression where you try to find somebody who can actually like think or has any clue what's going on down there. You'd be hard pressed to find someone.
Sure, yeah, because it's a lot of people just regurgitating slogans that were given to them by their group organizer.
Exactly, or whatever they heard on Alex Jones, or even in this station in some cases. They don't know what's going on because they don't have the capacity. That's why I think they use young people over again. But Mike and Dave here on Nonconformity Live, I listened to them today, and he had some good points to make about how this reeks of exactly what was going on in Russia before the October Revolution there. And I looked at a couple of the slogans that somebody had sent me after the show. There's some slogans here for, I'll try to find them and put them in the chat room for Occupy the Fed. They look like communist propaganda posters from the early 20s.
Yeah, well, these people they have posters and banners saying that a job is a right. And you got the clenched fist logos everywhere. In fact, the Occupy Wall Street website, there's a logo of the clenched fist right up there, and that's a symbol that's been associated with all sorts of communist and socialist organizations throughout the 20th century.
And some other very, very seedy things that have happened, which let's get to that later. But yeah, there's a lot of
okay.
There's a lot of very shady things going on. The one poster I saw, which I'll try to post in the chat room, is it's of a woman with wheat behind her. It's in a red and yellow poster, and it says, "Come camp out and occupy the street." Are you kidding me? Wheat behind her, like.
I don't know. Well, there's crazy people down there, I'm sure. And look, I mean, I understand that they're mad and they're upset at Wall Street. I mean, I'm no friend of Wall Street, but the solution that they're proposing is exactly what the people that they're protesting against want, because the bankers, they financed communism throughout the 20th century. They're the ones that were responsible for the Bolshevik Revolution. I mean, this is a historical fact. So the fact that they're promoting these ideologies as a solution, you got Michael Moore down there. I think it's just it's almost like a sick joke to the people who are running the whole show.
Definitely, but I think I have faith that things are going to get turned around this weekend when Alex Jones goes to Dallas, I guess, to end the Fed. So I'm really happy with that. I heard he's taking the party van.
Yeah, I guess he's got his party mobile, or the I don't know what you want to call it. His party RV that he's going to be taking to these 3 locations.
And I think he's going to send a note to Jason Verma saying, "Guess what, Jason? We're taking the party van out to Dallas, and you can't come."
Yeah, well, I think Mr. Burmis, he was pitching a tent on his backyard for a pretty lengthy period of time, so maybe
not coincidence.
Yeah, maybe he's had enough of that. He's had enough fun, but I mean, if you take a look at what he's doing, he's going to all these Fed locations, and he's going to shout into a megaphone at an empty building. Because the 3 times that he's going, there's going to be nobody inside the building. And that just says to me that what he's doing is just creating this over-glorified photo opportunity for himself, and to generate media exposure so more people visit his websites and more Federal Reserve notes get funneled into his operation.
What do you have against Alex Jones, Lee? Why don't you like him?
This would take a long time. I don't think we have enough time to get into all my grievances. I give you a few. But I'm sure you have a few as well. So
I know you've spent quite a bit of time showing what that guy's up to on several occasions. And
yes.
I gave up on him a long time ago. And see, that's the thing where I kind of want to go with what we're talking about today is there's some people you're just not going to reach. And I'm not saying, you shouldn't talk about this stuff, because sometimes you have to, because his acts are just so obvious. But it comes to a point where some people out there, I don't think they're ever going to get it.
Unfortunately, I think you're right.
I mean, to me, his actions spoke for themselves, and it didn't take me listening to somebody else tell me that Alex Jones is a fraud. I think everybody, still a lot of people in this truth movement, they want an authority figure, whether it's Lee Rogers or somebody else, to come on and say Alex Jones is a fraud.
Yeah, I mean, why do you? Yeah, here's the thing: why do people need somebody like myself or you or anybody else to say that he's a fraud? Well, who made us opinion leaders? That's what I'm trying to figure out. And that's exactly kind of what you're getting at. People are looking for leaders and people who are going to tell them how to think, and that's not healthy. I don't want to tell people how to think. I think that's the most unhealthy thing you could possibly have with this type of radio or this type of media.
Definitely. I mean, I tell you, with him, there's other people to get to, but not necessarily names, but we'll work together on this one. You look at what he did at the gun rally in Austin.
Yes.
You look at the Joker campaign. You look at that V for Victory campaign, again, right out of V for Vendetta, which was quite a mind-twisting film, for lack of to keep the language clean.
Right. Well, just for the benefit of the audience, why don't we get into a little bit of what happened in that film? Basically, at the end of the film, essentially they blow up the Parliament building, correct?
Correct.
Right. So the message that they're sending with that film, at least the way I saw it, was that they're endorsing a violent revolution.
Well, they also let you know at the beginning of the film that the building's just a building. It doesn't mean anything. That's not where anything comes from. And then they end the film by blowing up a building, and you've got this one character who's very mysterious, who basically he unseats whatever the present administration is, but they even show you at the film that whoever's under him is now going to take control and nothing's going to change. And that everybody else is just a spectator. They just show you that. Everybody comes out wearing their little mask, their collective mask. There's no individuality. They do exactly what they're programmed to do via the television. In other words, how does he get to people? Via the television, right?
Right.
They expect this change is going to happen, and what does he do? He just basically unseats some people in power, and now a new group is going to show up, and nobody's gotten any better. Nobody's gotten any smarter. Nobody's become more of an individual. As a matter of fact, they've become more collectivized just towards the new idea.
Absolutely. And here's something that I've talked about a lot in my show, and that's the fact that if you look at revolutions, and especially violent revolutions and these uprisings that have occurred throughout history, what has changed? Have people historically been able to have more freedom after a revolution or after one of these uprisings? And I think especially in the past 100 or so years, you can see that clearly that's not the case. I mean, look at, again, let's bring up the Russians, the Bolshevik Revolution. But what happened after that? Well, a bunch of people starved to death. And then you had Stalin, and you had millions of people that died as a result of his regime. So they didn't get any more freedom as a result of that uprising. So a lot of these opposition movements, a lot of these revolutions are controlled by the same people who are in power. And if they're not, they find a way to co-opt them so nothing changes.
Exactly.
Right. But anyway, I kind of got off on track. But
No, that's exactly it. None of this, there's a movie out there called Land of the Blind. Have you ever heard of it?
That sounds familiar, but I have not seen it.
It shows you exactly that. Corrupt, authoritarian government. Some insiders get conned by this underground, leader to get rid of the powers, form a coup d'etat, and then as soon as he performs the coup d'etat, the new group comes in, and they're communists. They're actually 10 times as oppressive as the previous regime, and the guy who helped them most spends the rest of his life in prison.
Right, because what they'll end up doing is that the people that help them, the people that are closest to the people who become in charge, a lot of the times they'll set them up or they'll kill them so they don't get in the way of the new authoritarian regime that gets put into place.
Yeah, and going back to Alex Jones, I mean, look at all these things. He uses the same imagery, the blood red V, etc. Again, wearing the clown, the Joker makeup, all this other stuff, and then. To me, there's the stuff about how did he get into Bohemian Grove, which we talked about. You don't just, and how do you hold up a handheld camera above your head while you're trying to remain discreet?
Well, I guess he said that he had he had it hidden somewhere, or he had this bag had the camera in.
Oh yeah, right.
I mean, who the hell knows? The point is that this is a place where you have these very high profile people, important people in business and politics, And you're not going to be able to just walk in there as a 26-year-old or however old he was when he went in there, unless you are allowed to come in. I just don't believe it. Because, I mean, not only that, but all the people that are there are generally older men. You're not going to have somebody in their 20s or 30s
Exactly.
that's going to be walking in there and not go unnoticed.
And from what I understand, as far as, I believe there's a lot of disinfo put out about Bohemian Grove, like about the owl and all this other stuff. They don't bring in young men. I think they bring in little boys. So yeah, unless you're like, under 19 or over 50, you're going to stick out.
Yeah, I would say so. Well, sure. I mean, there's definitely a lot of, I guess you could say, suspect information that is put out about the Grove. I find it interesting that the statue of St. John Nepomuk, there's no mention of that in the Alex Jones film. And if you look at that character, you'll see how it has ties back to the Jesuits and the Catholic Church. It's basically this St. John Nepomuk character is essentially a martyr for those people.
Well,
wow.
What was that?
Wow, what was that?
I don't know, something burning?
That was one of the most disturbing sounds I think I've heard in radio.
But I tell you what finally sealed the deal for me as far as like realizing Alex Jones was actually my own work, where I uncovered that gravy is actually a code for something.
Well, what's this? What was that word?
Gravy.
Gravy. Okay. Maybe
And
I'm missing something. You have to explain this.
Okay, gravy is a gay code for the mixture of shite and semen.
That's disgusting, but okay.
Yeah, it is.
Thanks for that information. Learn something new every day.
So when I heard this little clip I'm going to play now, I realized that, oh my God, and I want to thank one of my listeners for sending this in. I wouldn't have heard it otherwise. I mean, this is just the final nail in Jones' coffin, all right? Why else would you say this to someone, especially a lord?
Okay.
Now, Lord Moncton, I'm not trying to pour gravy over you, but you really do deserve it, and you're a model of stick-to-itness for more than a decade in their face.
Is that a real clip?
Yes.
That's one of the most disturbing things I've ever heard.
All right. I mean, think about it just to say for a second. Let's just assume you didn't know the meaning of the term gravy, right? Let's just say you didn't know the code.
It still sounds disgusting.
Yeah. Why? I mean, when would that be considered good? Like, hey, let me pour some gravy on you, even if it was like the food and it wasn't what I said it was. Why would you say that to one of your guests? Oh, here, let me. Oh, really? Wow, I don't deserve that honor. That's a very weird thing to say.
That is pretty bizarre. Play it one more time.
Yeah, and then again, listen to who he's addressing, Lord, and what he says there at the end as well, which says he knows exactly what gravy means.
Now, Lord Moncton, I'm not trying to pour gravy over you, but you really do deserve it, and you're a model of stick-to-itness for more than a decade in their face.
A model of stick-to-itness in your face.
In their face.
There's obviously nothing gay about that. That's a perfectly normal sentence that people would use in normal conversation every day.
And then offering to cover somebody in the mixture of shite and semen.
That is one of the most deranged clips I think I've ever heard. Wow, and I didn't even know that clip existed. You're gonna have to send that to me after the show. That is disgusting.
And keep in mind, he's addressing a lord here, okay? And the word lord is basically, anytime you hear the word lord applied, you might as well replace it with the word pillow biter or something to that effect, because everybody who's a lord is a homosexual. This is a given, okay? That's like saying the sky is blue.
Well, Lord Moncton is, well, I've talked about him on the show before, and I'm not sure about the stuff you're talking about. That's an interesting, that's an interesting statement, but Lord Moncton is absolutely a dirty character. And just with his connections to the Knights of Malta and his family connections back to that organization. So, I think, either way you look at it, regardless of what you want to believe, there's definitely, some suspect stuff going on there.
Definitely. And, once you start looking at this, you'll see it. I'm sure some people don't, it might be new if you haven't seen Don't Go West about the gravy reference, but this is not accidental. And yeah, even the lords, I remember one of my listeners at one time told me, she goes, I didn't used to understand her mom, who was Irish, would used to say, oh, well, he's as gay as a lord, gay as a lord. And when she was young, she didn't understand that. Well, that's because anybody with the word lord attached to their name is a poofer. It's just the way it is. It's a given.
British lord. Well, it does sound gay. I'll give you that much. Well, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, it is a fact that a lot of these elitists, and this has happened throughout history, that they have been closely associated with homosexual behavior. Yeah, this is a fact. So I don't think it's too far of a stretch to say that a lot of the people that are involved with the upper echelons of power today are of that same ilk, if you will.
I think this is part of that whole initiation ceremony, and it's all about this power game. And I'm looking more into that. I mean, without actually, trying to be exposed to it, because I don't want to see gravy for firsthand.
No, I don't. No, absolutely not. I want to stay as far away from anything like that as possible.
But it does seem to me that, yeah, if you go back and try to understand human history, you will see example after example after example of this, going way back to where you would be a fool not to question the why.
Right. Well, the Knights Templar in their initiation ceremonies, didn't they make their initiates kiss the anus of someone?
That is, again, these were obtained after under torture.
Right.
So a lot of that information is suspect. I've recently come to the belief that because I've traced the origin of the word rabbit hole back to rabbis. Rabbi, there's a rabbit hole. And when you understand...
That's interesting. I never thought of it that way. That's intriguing.
So when you trace these old temple ceremonies back, we think temple, we think house of God. That's all a bunch of nonsense. It was basically a way to brainwash people and suck money out of them. So you had temple whores, temple dogs with the male variant of prostitutes. And while performing this ceremony to whatever god, okay, again, we've been so dissuaded. Yes, the head priest would bend over during the rituals, and his acolytes would have to kiss his anus. That was the ring of the priest. They can't do it anymore because people aren't as, well, that's an argument there. But people just didn't want to do it at some point. I'm not exactly, I guess maybe when they rolled it out from just the initiates to the masses. But what I believe a lot of these stories are like Skull and Bones. We hear about that they have to jerk off in front of each other and things like that. I think that's really a cover that they actually get sodomized. That is part of the ritual. So I think this all goes way back from old rituals going, again, way back in time. And I'm starting to wonder, again, I don't know, if the Knights Templars were actually blamed for something that was a cover-up for what was actually going on through other priestcrafts.
Sure, and when you get back and look at the Knights Templar, it's been a subject of much controversy. It's kind of like even recent events. It's impossible to figure out exactly what happened. There's a lot of people who say, okay, well, maybe the Templar were framed. Maybe they were part of a larger conspiracy. Maybe they're hiding the Holy Grail. There's all this folklore that's put out, and it's really difficult to discern fact from fiction when it comes to the Knights Templar.
Yeah, which actually is a good way to get to, we're talking about Jones here. Where did all that information come from? All the big names in this conspiracy movement. Early on, right? They were just conveniently out there waiting for us, weren't they?
Sure, yeah. We have all these figures, and even up until this day, you still see these people that are put out there and basically presented as experts on particular subjects. And this is something I've talked about a lot on the show, how you have these individual people that are tied in with, let's say, Second Amendment issues or the economy or what else? Geopolitics.
Yeah.
And so you have a pre-selected expert for each individual issue. And Jones keeps bringing these people on, no matter how much these people have been discredited.
Yeah, and beyond Jones, look, I've started finding out now, I've gotten to the point where even a lot of the books I read early on are suspect to me because a lot of them basically repeated and regurgitated a lot of this, conspiracy 101 lore. And as I've started looking, instead of looking at words, I look at symbols and the progression of symbols over time, I'm learning that a lot of the stuff we were told was untrue. So now I'm starting to question a lot of this conspiracy, what I call folklore, that was basically fed to us when we were so hungry for this information. People like David Icke, Jordan Maxwell, There's a lot of other secondary characters out there that, like Stanley Monteith is one. I mean, there's a guy who presents a lot of really shady information, apparently
I think that guy's a fraud. He was tied in with the Council for National Policy, and I've gotten into that subject a great deal.
And he's also got the power to verbally command demons with the power of Christ compels you or some crap like that.
Is that what he said? It wouldn't surprise me if he said something like that. A lot of these religious zealots, they make up all sorts of nonsense.
You got Bill Deagle out there. I'm not sure if you're familiar with his work about, radioactive attack baboons and
Bill Deagle, is he the guy that does that NutriMedical report?
Yeah, that guy.
On GCN? Okay, yeah. I don't know a whole lot about him, but that's of course, that sounds kind of weird. He actually talks about that on his show?
Well, he used to, apparently, because in 2008, the underground attack baboon army was supposed to be released on mankind, and I guess that didn't happen.
Man, I'm disappointed. I would like to see some radioactive attack baboons, but I guess we'll have to wait until 2012.
Yeah, then there was the swine flu virus that was supposed to kill everybody, and then the bird flu virus that was supposed to kill everybody, and then the Fukushima is this newest thing which is supposed to kill everybody.
Oh God, so, yeah. How many people were saying that? Oh, these radioactive death clouds are gonna come over here and kill us all. How many people were saying that? And oh yeah, buy potassium iodide from Jones, who's price gouging everybody for twice the amount that you could buy it at a normal store.
Yeah, and you've got a bunch of these guys out there. I mean, a whole lot of them. And I'm wondering, even like the big names like Ike, I've proved some of the things that they've said untrue. Same with Maxwell. And I was like, okay, are these guys just not very bright, or are they actually planting disinfo out there?
Well, have you seen those photos of Jordan Maxwell hanging out with Michael Eisner and these Disney characters?
He does seem to praise. That's one of the things that first started. He praised Spielberg and Lucas.
I mean George Lucifer. George Lucas?
If you want to call him that. I don't think he deserves the name.
Yeah. Is that even his real name? I haven't looked into this at all.
I don't know. The only thing that I can pretty safely say about both of those guys is they probably really like little boys. That's one thing I can possibly very safely say about them.
Well,
they make crap movies. I can say that too.
Well, either way, I mean, the Hollywood elite are tied in with some very, let's just say, suspect types of things. So let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, but, on my recent shows, I talked about just two things that these big names have put out there. One of them is, you've heard that thing about Hollywood and how there were no holly trees in Los Angeles and how the Druids apparently used holly to cast spells on people.
Not specifically. Who talks about that? Is that Maxwell?
I think that was Maxwell, and then a lot of, conspiratorial hosts have regurgitated that since then.
Yeah, actually, I haven't heard that, but that sounds something like or it sounds kind of like something that Maxwell would say.
Yeah, and then I found out that actually that's all BS because holy wood, it's not Hollywood, it's holy wood. And that refers to the whole idea of like temples and, the rabbi hole, which is the rabbit hole, where, again, for people who don't know, a temple dog would bend over and place his anus against it, so the rabbi wouldn't have to leave the temple and he could put his penis inside the temple dog while he was reciting the service.
Well, it sounds like fun. Sign me up.
Holy wood, the penis in the butthole, and that's what these guys are into. They're into little boys. I mean, that's what it's been, and I'm at the point now where I'm like, how much more of this information is suspect? We were told that Israel is the basis, I'm sure you've heard this as well. ISIS, Ra, and Elohim.
That's been floated out there. What information do you have on that?
That's nonsense because that doesn't work. I mean, Isis and Ra, yeah, that works because they're both from, the Egyptian pantheon, but Elohim is not. So that doesn't, if they could have said like Isis, Ra, and Set, it's a neurolinguistic programming phase, okay? It's because Israel never existed. But they wanted to create the idea that it existed. So beyond the King James Version of the Bible, which first started mentioning Israel, what do you have? You got Israel. It's a neurolinguistic spell. Every time you hear that, your mind hears or sees, because it's there in front of you, it's real, is real, is real, is real. So how do you convince people that something that never existed, there was no place called Israel over where Palestine is, by having them repeat the mantra? How many people have been repeating the mantra for how long now?
Well, I gotta admit, that's interesting. Yeah, I never looked at the word Israel like that, is real, because, and that is fascinating, and I'm learning something new here, and that's good. Because that is an interesting point. I mean, if you take a look at the Bible, okay, how many people were responsible for writing this thing, and how many times has this been translated or passed down to other people who have different political agendas. So it's very difficult to say what is actually truthful or not truthful in the Bible to begin with.
Yeah, exactly.
Including the once, I guess, 3,000-year-old state of Israel.
Or, as I prefer to call it now, is not real.
Is not real. Yeah, well, that's an interesting point. Never thought of it that way.
I mean, you know, when you look at a word subconsciously, it doesn't matter how the letters are arranged. Your brain takes it in. And it sounds close enough to it where it's like a mantra. You know, the state of Israel today, it's a state that never existed. So they wanted to convince people that they could just fabricate the state with no history, no previous proof of its existence. Just fabricate it into being.
Just say it's real. Just say it's real. And then it's real, and then we can set up our little dictatorship there and kill all the brown people.
Yeah.
Well, either way you look at it, there's definitely, man, there's just so much crazy stuff going on with that whole thing, the Middle East and everything that's happening. But that's a whole other subject in of itself. Getting back to the truth
people?
movement. Yes.
Yeah.
What are figures do you see in the so-called truth movement that you have some questions about?
Well, are we doing it? Are we doing a 12-hour show?
Well, some of the big players. I know we mentioned a few people that you want to talk about before the show.
Yeah, I tell you what, you know, I've already made fun of Stuart Swerdlow. You know who that guy is.
Who? I'm sorry, I haven't heard of this clown. Was Stuart
Swerdlow?
Who the hell is that?
Okay, so I'm not mentioning any new names today yet. He's this guy that claims to be a survivor of MK Ultra, the Montauk experiment, and he's been back in time and supposed to kill Jesus, but didn't because he took pity on him.
Where did you hear about this guy? This guy sounds completely nuts.
Oh, he's been around for a while. He's been on Red Ice. He's been on a few shows. He's got tons of info out there. He's done videos.
That's frightening.
And he hosts seminars, and he will remove the Illuminati deprogramming for you for a small price.
Oh, he hosts seminars. That's unbelievable. I'm going to go sign up and make sure I go to one of those right away.
Yeah, I don't know if you knew this. On August 1st, the aliens were supposed to come, but they were waiting to come. They were waiting for the movie Aliens and Cowboys to be released because apparently they were on their way here.
Is this kind of stuff this guy is really putting out?
Oh, yeah.
How can somebody like this not be completely discredited by now?
Because people are gullible.
I mean, are people really that friggin' stupid?
Yes.
I guess so. I guess the answer is yes. I think we've proved it.
Here, get this. There was an intergalactic space armada stationed off the Kuiper Belt waiting to come make human contact.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, okay. So how does he know this? Did he travel a few light years to check it out?
Because he's like super dude. He's been on the Montauk chair, okay? God, what a silly question, Lee.
That's right.
Have you been in the Montauk chair?
No, I guess not. So I shouldn't be asking these questions because he's obviously the authority since he's been on the Montauk chair.
So apparently, you know, he knew that there's an alien armada parked off the Kuiper Belt.
Okay.
And conveniently right behind it so that we couldn't turn the Hubble telescope on him and find him, see?
I see.
See, the story, he's thought it out. And they were ready to come make human contact. And keep in mind, he used the word armada, so of course no idiot's going to ask, doesn't that mean they're going to come, like, destroy us? So why would you send an armada on a peace mission?
Right, exactly. I mean, if you send like a space armada, that is essentially a term that's affiliated with war and destruction, chaos.
Yeah, do you think the English looking off Dover cliffs when they saw the Spanish armada approaching going, look, they're coming here to make peace?
No, they knew that there were some people that were getting ready to attack.
And apparently they were ready to come, and they couldn't come until Aliens and Cowboys was released. And apparently that was when he was talking about this. It was like 4 or 5 months before the film. So I guess the Armada was going to just hover in space for 5 months waiting for this film to be released. But the prophecy didn't come true.
You know, I wonder if the marketing people for that film actually paid him some money to put that in his little conspiracy theory. What do you think about that?
I do not know. Possibly.
Man, that's unbelievable. Okay, well, there's one individual. AR figures out there?
Well, I'll just add this. You know, there's if you're going to name an individual, but I'll just say this: there's a lot of small-time hosts out there, and whether or not they're operatives or just idiots, it's hard to say. Again, and does it really matter at the end of the day if you're doing the job of operatives?
It probably doesn't, because either way, they're perpetuating an agenda that is not healthy. That's at least the way I see it.
Yeah, and they all seem to be spouting, which makes me wonder, are they just stupid, or are they, is the conspiracy bigger than I can imagine? Because they all seem to spout the same basic, conspiracy 101 party line. The accept the dogma. This is what everybody needs to know about. They need to know about the Illuminati, the Freemasons, the Satanists, and all this other BS which leads people in chases for shadowy figures that may or may not exist.
Well, that's the thing about the New World Order, is that there's absolutely no way for anybody to determine who was at the top of the pyramid. And what's funny about this, and maybe I can get your take on this before we go on to some other subjects, but you absolutely see a number of people that try to pigeonhole people into saying that, okay, it's one group or the other group, and there can't be any gray area. You have to say that it's either one group or the other group, and then they'll just get people fighting over that when it's an issue of no significance.
Exactly. That does seem to be the case. They want people, arguing about nothing, and they're trying to create strife and conflict. And I think, I got to admit, it's kind of working because, like you said, you're wondering how many people in this business are shady, and so am I. And I got to admit, I'm very skeptical. Even when somebody I don't know contacts me, and they're like, "Hey, I'd like you on my show or something." I'm like, "All right. Who is this guy? What does he talk about?"
Right. Well, the thing is that I found that there's been a lot of nasty people that I've unfortunately had contact with in this quote unquote movement, and I've had some people that have not treated me very well. And I'll just give you one example. I've talked about this on my show before, and this might disappoint a lot of people out there. In fact, he was just on the network a few shows ago. Jack Blood has called my show 3 times, and each time the guy was an asshole, each and every time. And even when he was on the
do you mean that in a negative sense? Because you got to remember who's listening today. We got a lot of trolls listening. They might think that's a good thing.
Right. That's a good point. No, it's an entirely negative sense. He was a jerk, and I just got the sense that when he started doing a show on the network, he was trying to do certain things to get myself and Doug fighting for no particular reason. And the guy he just seems like a jerk, period. And I've had a similar experience with other people. And I don't know if Jack Blood is some sort of operative or whatnot, but I'm just saying I don't think he's a high quality individual. Just based upon my personal experience with him. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on Mr. Blood?
I wasn't aware that he was trying to cause friction between you and Doug, but it doesn't surprise me. The guy just always seemed really shady to me. I've always felt that way about him. I mean, early on, when I was first listening, I was like, oh, look, another truther on our side, exposing the Illuminati and the New World Order, right?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that he did a pretty good show, and I thought he was putting out some good information, but, man, I mean, it just goes to show you that just because somebody presents themselves a certain way on air or as a certain personality or some sort of figure, that's not necessarily who they are behind the scenes.
Yeah, I'll say this. When he was on the network, I haven't brought this up because, unlike some people, by some people I mean Jack Blood, I'm not a little bitch. This will get him fired up.
He's not going to be happy about this.
I had been contacted by one of my listeners once, and they're like, "Did you hear what Jack Blood said about you on this show?" And I'm like, "No." And so they said, "You should listen to it." And I'm like, "All right." So I went ahead and listened to it. And I guess it was right when the Intel Hub had come on, Oracle, like the first week or two of shows.
Yes.
And they had Jack Blood on, and after the break, they had just played my spot, my promo.
Right, yeah, your little, the 10-second bumper promotion thing that we have on there, yeah.
And then he says, well, I don't want to walk the rebel path here. But collectivism versus, I'm like, what? Who makes a snide little comment like that?
Right, exactly. So, I think between that and the type of stuff I was just talking about, I think it's pretty clear that he's just not a very nice person. You know, we can just say that and prove that 100%. And you can go back and, if you can find it in the archives, you can listen to some of the calls that he placed into my show. And he was standoffish, he was rude. And not only that, but, and I'll just say this, I haven't talked about this before, I told you about this, but, one of the shows I did with Josh Reeves, it was a live show, kind of the same format that we're doing here. Now, all of a sudden, out of the blue, I got some instant messages from him, and it was just full of 4-letter words, and I was bad because I wasn't letting him come on the show, and he was using some of the most vile language to me over chat while I was doing the show. Now, who the hell does that when you're trying to do a show? I mean, it was just a sign of total disrespect.
Exactly. And I heard one of the calls that I didn't know he had called you 3 times. One of the calls to your show, and I'm like, why are you calling him, trying to discredit him on his show when you're on the same network?
Right, and that's something that I would never do to him. I wouldn't call into his show or take over his show and say Jack Blood is this or Jack Blood is that, because I have a little more respect for people than obviously he does for other people. And not only that, but there's this. I guess he got arrested for DWI, and that was in the papers down in Austin, Texas, and all this stuff. And not that I really care.
Yeah.
But it shows that there's some problems with this guy, John Clayton, who that's his real name, otherwise known as Jack Blood. And I just want to put that on the record. I think he's a shady character, just like all these other people we were talking about before.
I want to expand on that a little bit, actually, because I try not to call people out. One of the things I did want to talk about was I had undergone what felt like a significant trolling operation against me. I may have overestimated or underestimated. I don't know. I try not to spend too much time thinking of this stuff. And there was a lot of shady individuals in it, and we'll get to that later. But now we'll focus on Captain Jack here.
Captain Jack.
What happened is, as I was looking into these individuals, I found a lot of these people were connected to him, and I'm not saying 6 degrees of separation here. I'm saying 1 degree of separation.
Right. Well, Blood, of course, he was a fill-in host for Alex Jones for a period of time.
Yeah, until their breakup, which is one of the things I wanted to get to.
Which could have been staged as well.
Yeah,
we don't know. We don't know, but that's just something we're postulating, right?
Well, I think we can safely say, just like we could with Alex Jones and his gravy comment, that I don't want to dig up shite, because one of the things I wanted to bring up, and let's leave this for a little bit later, is these fake fights between people, and all these people just seem to be shady all the way around on both ends. So I'm very leery of, like, whenever I hear, like, about a fight between somebody and it's he said, she said, and all this other stuff, because at the end of the day, I just don't want to be associated with these people or be taking sides in these little squabbles between them.
Right. I don't care about, to be quite honest with you, I don't care about these people. You see, I come on, I do my show for 3 hours, and I have a life that I lead after I get off the air.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're the same way. You have your 4 hours you do on the weekend, and then you have other stuff that you do besides this. But a lot of these people, they seem to be just so focused in on every single nuance of every single radio show and all the ins and outs, all the drama that goes on in this so-called conspiracy movement.
Yeah. Now, one of the characters associated with whoever was harassing me, I'm not going to give him a name because the guy's probably got like 10 listeners on his own. He's an associate of that. He's actually been on Jack Blood's show. And now here's one sign, all right, which makes you wonder what this truth movement's all about. This guy's a wigger. And for those of you who don't know what a wigger is, it's also a wankster. It's basically a white kid from the suburbs that acts like he's from the ghetto.
Right.
Why is this guy a truther? This guy's the furthest thing from the truth. He doesn't even know, he doesn't even have a clue. Am I wrong in that? When you see some white kid from the suburbs walking around going, yo, 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 what's up, man?
Dude, I saw in the 1990s, going through high school, I saw so many people like that. These friggin' idiots running around blaring this crazy rap music and acting like they're a different race. It drove me absolutely nuts. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and people give me a hard time about being anally focused, but this particular character writes lyrics. He's a talented individual. And he writes about how women should eat his feces, and he wants to smear his feces on those bitches' faces.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, obviously, he's a very talented poet, and I'm sure he'll win some sort of prize for his work.
Maybe his prize was Jack Blood having him on and referring to him as a true patriot.
Maybe so. You see, well, that's just right there. I mean, again, you have these shady-ass people that are, of course, tied in not only with Mr. Jack there, but it's really like this consortium of shady people.
A huge consortium, and I'd like to get to them, but I've got more info on Jack.
Hey, you have the floor. I mean, this is a commercial-free show. We're just letting it all hang out here, so go right ahead.
Well, you mentioned that the lovers' quarrel between him and Jones may have not been what it was cracked up to be.
I think so. Well, here's one of the interesting things. When we first started this network, Jack Blood actually called my show, and he just was pissed off. And I was actually upset over what happened with Jones and what happened with the radio networks and all the crazy stuff that went on. And he was actually, on the surface, the person that was most hurt by what was going on. And so I was essentially taking his side, and then he called my show and was upset at me. It didn't make any sort of sense, but now looking back at it in retrospect, I think I know why he did that. But go ahead.
Well, let's say that you and I were friends, Lee. Well, let's say we are, right?
Yeah, we've never. I mean, yeah, right.
Yeah,
I guess
we haven't hung out, but
yeah.
Let's say one day I was driving through New Hampshire. Yeah, people know you live there.
Yes, it's not a mystery. Yes, I live in New Hampshire. Yep. I mean, it's a Live Free or Die radio show. I mean, it's pretty obvious.
It should be to anybody, but then again, we got to remember a lot of the trolls in the chat room need a little help. They're not that smart.
Right. They're half brain dead. Some of these people. So it's good to remind them every now and then. Get the juices flowing.
Oh, by the way, not my chat room, thecelticrebel.tartango.com, the troll chat room, which Lee thought he got rid of, but won't die. It's going to live free or die, that chat room, huh?
Yeah, that thing's going to live forever. See, I'm telling you, man, I got a lot of fans out there, so.
People need a forum to hate Lee Rogers on.
It's a must. There has to be one. Otherwise, some of these people wouldn't know what to do with themselves. But go ahead.
You mean other than beat off to porn and then spend half the day beating off to porn and the other half fighting the New World Order?
I'm sure if you had a hidden camera and just focusing on what some of these people do all day, I'm sure you'd see a lot of that.
I don't think I'd want to even look at that hidden camera.
I don't think anybody would, but that's besides the point. But anyway, go ahead with your story or the information.
All right. Let's say I came over for dinner, right? I stopped in. I'm like, hey, Lee, I'm driving to New Hampshire. Come over for dinner. And let's just say, we got drunk at this fight, and we had it out. We had a difference of opinion about our shows or whatever, and we got into a fist fight, right?
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Now, after that was over, and I want to thank one of my friends who was actually on my show recently, John Preston, for pointing this out to me, because I didn't catch it, because I wasn't paying that much attention to the story, actually, is he said to me, didn't you think it was kind of weird that after this huge fight, Jack Blood recited what was on the menu that night? He was like, yeah, we had chicken and peas and apple pie, and then me and Jones got in a fight. I swear I got off his network and went on to Oracle. Doesn't that seem kind of weird?
I didn't realize that happened. If that's indeed what happened, then that is very weird. Because why would you recite those certain details about that whole thing?
Especially when you had a fight that night.
Right, especially if you're mad and you're pissed off and you want nothing to do with Jones. I mean, why would you even recite what you talked or what you had for dinner?
Yeah, this is like two con men or two criminals, or maybe better yet, two children trying to get their story straight, all right? Like, look, we're going to make up a lie, so if anybody asks us, and then they outsmart themselves. Because one of them sits there and goes like, oh, what if they ask us what we had for dinner? and then, they remember that. And then, without being interrogated, they offer that information.
Well, there's just a lot of shady stuff with that whole thing, and I think a lot of these different blow-ups that we've seen, looking at everything in retrospect, I think a lot of them have been staged and pre-planned and orchestrated for a number of different purposes.
Well, I tell you this, I think that point can't be underestimated, how important just that one little detail is. Because let's go back to the example I used of, if I had stopped by your house and we ended up in a fist fight, and like we had to have your neighbors call the police and we both got tasered and sent off to the hospital, right? As I'm telling this story to somebody later, I'd be like, oh, I remember that day I stopped by Lee's house and we had the fight. It was a warm spring day in New Hampshire. It was about 76 degrees. The scent of gardenia was in the air. We had flounder fillet with peas and carrots, and close it off with a Chardonnay.
You would, yeah. That's not the first thing you'd be talking about. You'd be talking about why you're pissed off at the guy, or what the disagreement was about, or who won the fight. That's what you'd be talking about.
It's a good thing those cops showed up, or even if he could have ended up dead.
Yeah, exactly. That's the type of thing you'd be telling in your story. You wouldn't be going on and on about the details that had nothing to do with the actual event.
Well, there was a guy called Fenton Dunn a long time ago, and again, I'm going to get to this point. I'm going to try to emphasize it later. I don't know if you've ever heard the name. I came across him as I was looking into this truth movement early on. And he was the first contrarian voice that I heard. And he put on the record that in an early broadcast, and now, let's say, some people are saying he might be CIA or something now, but who knows?
How long ago was this, out of curiosity?
He's an Irish broadcaster. He was doing a show a long time ago. He's been doing it for a very long time.
Okay, so are we talking like, I don't know, a decade ago? Or
No, we're talking about 5 years ago at least.
Okay, so like around 2006, 2007. Okay.
Maybe even 2005. He had put out a broadcast saying that the truth movement is phony. Everybody's in on it. It's all staged. And he started saying, this is how the CIA does things. He said Alex Jones is CIA, Greg Szymanski is CIA, and he said Jack Blood is CIA. Now, I'm not saying I totally agree with him. I just found that very interesting to hear early on.
That is interesting. Well, Greg Szymanski was another suspicious character. I haven't heard much from him lately, though. But he was one of those people that, if I remember correctly, he was tied in the 9/11 truth thing.
Yeah.
One of those people. Yeah, there's not these figures. But go ahead.
You have to wonder because, let's look at two characters that came on early on. What's his name? Jason Burmis and Matt Damon? No.
Matt Damon? Matt Damon?
What's that guy's
Pretty
name?
Funny.
The other kid.
You mean, you're talking about the Loose Change?
Yeah.
The Loose Change crew. You had Dylan Avery. You had Burmis, and you had Corey Rowe.
Yeah, okay. Matt Damon and Bob Dylan. Okay.
Bob Dylan.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Honestly, I mean, look, I see the typical 20-something-year-old guy around me, and he's a effing moron. Out of all the people that could have made 911 films, these two guys were the ones that had the one that gained millions of hits and that everybody got exposed to what happened on 911 through. Well, these guys, have you ever heard them talk?
Well, that's it's a good question because you take a look, and I've mentioned this before, but how is it that this film just rose to super prominence almost overnight? Kind of like how the Zeitgeist film, I'm sure you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
How that rose to prominence almost overnight. It's because these films were pre-selected and promoted by a lot of very powerful mainstream media forces. I mean, Zeitgeist, for example, is promoted by Coast to Coast. Peter Joseph was on there. And of course, Loose Change was all over the corporate media.
All over the place. And it was just way too findable. And same with Zeitgeist. Nothing gets millions of hits overnight. Nothing.
No, but these films seem to just catch fire right away.
Yeah, and you look at what was put in Loose Change, which was one of the things, not Loose Change, I'm sorry, Zeitgeist, that made me wonder. You look at what was put into it. The Federal Reserve, 9/11, and Jesus was a lie. How are those three things even remotely connected? I mean, except for like financing or something like that for one side of it, but because those are the talking points of the truth movement, and they need to put those across.
Right, and also, well, the first part of the film I think was extremely divisive because when you start talking about Jesus Christ and you just say definitively he did not exist, well, immediately you're going to create this situation where you're going to have people fighting over that aspect of the film, and that's exactly what happened.
I tell you, it's very shady, and I'm going to tell you, since you brought it up, like I said, I normally wouldn't engage in this. I just let them do their thing, but this is a significant figure, so I figure we can talk about him. And you mentioned him. It's your network.
Sure, go right ahead.
A couple of other very shady things about this character, this Jack Blood guy. I was talking to one of the other hosts in this network. His name's Nemo, you know?
Yes.
Okay. So we were talking about prison slang, and I didn't know this, but there's a phrase in prison slang which I heard used on the Blood Show, which is kind of a trademark, and that phrase is "gunning down the New World Order."
Okay.
Okay, you've heard it, right?
I may have.
Okay,
You have to continue the story.
Okay, well. Allegedly, so Jack Blood is telling everybody he's gunning down the New World Order because he's our radio gun, right?
Yeah, the radio gun, yeah.
Yeah, gunning down the New World Order.
Right.
Well, if you are in a prison system, which I guess anybody who's, the tough, hard luck, knock guy that grew up in the streets might be, you would know what prison slang is. Right?
That's fair, sure.
Well, if you're, let's say, in your cell, and there's a guard that you don't like, or particularly a female guard, what you can do is, when they have to come by and do their check of each cell to make sure each prisoner's in it, you got your pants down around your knees and you're wanking your pud feverishly. All
okay.
Right? This is what you do, especially to the female guards, right?
Yeah.
And then afterwards, what you do is you get together with your friends in the yard or wherever, and you say, yeah, I was gunning down the new guard today.
Oh, my God. Well, I tell you what, that's a very disturbing way of looking at it, but I can't say that you're wrong.
Is that what gunning down the New World Order means?
Maybe so. I don't know.
Because obviously, let's just say, you're not really fighting the New World Order.
You're gunning the New World Order down.
And you might as well, because that's what I think a lot of this truth movement is doing. We're just basically stroking ourselves, thinking we're actually doing something, but we're just masturbating like sick little monkeys. We're not having any effect.
No, well, and you're 100% correct on that. What effect has any of this had? I mean, granted, maybe we've reached a few more people, and there's some people out there that look at things a little bit differently, but overall, if we had any sort of impact against what the New World Order is doing? No. I mean, the agenda has moved along, and you can just see it in the news cycle, and I cover it every day here. And nothing's changed.
No. So I guess that could be a little inside joke.
That's pretty wild. Well, oh, man. Well, anyway, there's one other thing that, and you brought this up before we came on air, but you showed me that photo of him and Ron Paul, and he had that tattoo of the butterfly on his chest. Now,
I'll try to find it for the chat room.
Okay, now, the butterfly, of course, is a symbol that's been associated with Project Monarch and mind control and things like that. Now, I'm not sure if that's where you were kind of going with that, but I mean, what's your take on that tattoo? It's kind of a strange tattoo to have right in your chest.
It is kind of strange to have. Now, I think a lot of the MK Ultra stuff is disinfo.
You could be right.
Because again, who was it? Let's look at who fed it to us, right? The early people in this conspiracy movement, which, as I'm finding out, more and more of them were planted there. A lot of these people are just basically, again, you could go out and read these books on official history of what happened with the formation of the Illuminati and et cetera, all sorts of things, right?
Yeah. Well, I think part of it, just to jump in real quick, I think part of it is the fact that the mind control is much more sophisticated than we can even comprehend. So that's why they put out a lot of this stuff, which may have been true at one point in time, but at this point in time, the 21st century, it's completely, in many cases, irrelevant.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
If they're releasing it, then they moved on way past it, right?
Right. Exactly. It's like, because a lot of this information on LSD, that's like 50-something years old, and Well, I'm sure they're dabbling in electronic warfare and all sorts of crazy forms of mind control that, again, we have no reference for.
But I've seen tattoos butterflied on people before, and it's always on chicks.
Don't they usually put the butterfly like right above the back end?
Yeah, God, I hate that. There's nothing that turns me off more than the stupid slut stamp at the top of their ass. Look, I turned 18. I can do what I want.
That seems to be a favorite spot of a lot of chicks that put that tattoo.
Oh, God.
Right above the ass crack.
You don't know how many times I've brought girls home and I'm sitting there and I am just like dreading it. As I'm pulling their pants up, I'm like, please, dear God, don't let there be a stupid slut stamp across the top of their ass. And yeah, most of the time it's there.
Yeah, but I mean, sometimes those chicks you can have fun with.
Yeah, but I can't look at that.
Well, that's okay. I mean, you can shut the lights off, or I don't know, maybe, I don't know, maybe you can put your hand on it.
Well, you have heard the rumor that the Celtic Rebel is a backdoor man, haven't you?
Or yeah, just do it missionary style. You don't have to look at it.
But yeah,
there's ways around the problem.
I know, but it's not that it's just so disgusting. It's just basically there's nothing that says stupid slut like, why did you have that done? Again, you did it because you were following the programming. You were just basically mimicking whatever the TV told you. This is how you express your independence from your parents. You go and get some stupid thing, and a lot of times it is a butterfly. I've seen butterflies on the front side as well, but I don't see them on guys.
Well, here's the thing. That is kind of an interesting, interesting point. But another point about tattoos is the fact, you're 100% correct. Society has programmed people to get tattoos as a form of rebellion, but all it really does is that it makes you more easily to identify to the state. Because if you have all these tattoos all over your body, well, it's much easier to point you out in a crowd.
Definitely. And identify you, if they get you in, because, there's people with your same name. I had an interesting conversation with, this one guy about facial recognition, and that apparently there's a very good chance you'll find somebody in the world that looks a lot like you, if not several people, because there's only, I forget what he said, he's like 30 distinguishing facial characteristics, and it's not that hard to find too many people that look alike. So beyond your name and your face, what a better way to, I agree with you. I heard you say that. I think that's a great idea because, well, yeah, you get some stupid tattoo on you. There you go. You're marked for life. There you go. That's who you are.
Yeah. I mean, and how can you get rid of that tattoo? You got to get laser surgery? I mean, that's why I've never, ever considered getting a tattoo. Ever. Just because of that. Because it can be used to more easily identify you. And plus, I don't know. Tattoos just never have appealed to me.
How about in a more practical sense? Because odds are that 10 years from now you will not be the same person that thought it'd be great to think about, rock bands you've liked, things you thought were so important at one time,
Yeah, 10 years from now, you're going to be like, what the hell was I thinking? This is the stupidest goddamn thing, and I have it on my ass.
Yeah, why do I have stiff little fingers tattooed on my ankle?
Yeah, I don't understand that. Yeah, I mean, why do people put tattoos on their ankle?
Just because the meme was put out there.
It's just insanely stupid. I mean...
But more importantly, why would somebody put a butterfly on his chest?
I don't know. And that picture is real, correct?
That picture is real.
Just for all the conspiracy people out there.
And I have at least solved the mystery, finally. There's a hat my mom used to wear to the beach. It went missing, and I think I know who stole it now.
Oh, my God. Well, I think there's going to be a lot of people that will be very upset at this radio broadcast. What do you think?
I think I know of at least 1 to 12.
1 to 12? Well, there'll be quite a few at least.
But I think a lot more than that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, believe it or not, this show does get thousands of downloads. I know your show gets thousands of downloads. So, even though we don't have like a huge, enormous audience, we have people that we reach and people who hopefully will take a look at things a little bit differently after hearing this.
Definitely. And this is stuff that, like I said, with the Alex Jones thing, I already knew, but that was the thing. The whole gravy thing sealed it for me. And we can talk about that more. I think it's probably a good time for us to take a break if you're somewhat ready.
Yeah, absolutely. This has just been such a compelling show. We've been talking for about an hour and 45 minutes straight. or actually closer to an hour and 40 minutes. So yeah,
Okay.
let's take a break.
Yeah, so when we come back, we can talk more about the smaller players in it. But what I was saying with Edward Jones, that gravy thing just said a lot to me. I mean, more so than anything else as far as, like, some of the things you can kind of, like, argue against. And I got to tell you, this whole thing with, I brought up what I thought was a fair example, the whole dinner thing there. That's pretty significant if you really just focus on that one aspect of it.
Yeah, I'd like to get more details on that after the show, but it is an interesting point. If you're focusing on inane details instead of the larger overall issue, that certainly raises some questions. So, yeah, I 100% agree with you. All right, well, we're going to take a break. I don't know, what do you think? 5-minute break?
Yeah, 5 minutes good.
5-minute break, okay. All right, folks, what we're going to do is we'll play some music, and then we will come back and we will talk about these subjects even more. Should be a lot of fun. So we'll be right back. My guest, the Celtic Rebel. Stay with us. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Hope you enjoyed the music. But again, I'm joined here by my guest, the Celtic Rebel, and we've been talking about some very interesting topics, and I'm sure yes, very interesting. I don't think there's been a radio show like this ever in the history of mankind. What do you think?
I don't think so.
No. And that's what's so great about it, because we're covering some new areas and some new information I don't think anybody has ever heard before. So, Mr. Rebel, I know you had some more information you want to get into as far as Jack Blood is concerned, and some of these other minor characters that we see floating around the quote-unquote truth movement, or as I like to call it, the bowel movement. So you have the floor, sir.
Yeah, and lately I've just been calling it the bitch boy movement, because it's funny, my work on looking at the temple dogs and their tactics and how they are, I remember one time I did a show called Gays Are the New Jews, where I talked about just the similarity between the groups as long as the fictional construct, which again set a lot of people off because just the title alone is provocative enough.
Yeah, if you mix gays and Jews in the same sentence, that's not allowed in the United States of America.
And I said, I realized this early on, but again, it took me a while to come around to the conclusion that there does seem to be a lot of closet homosexuals in this truth movement, and I wasn't quite sure why, and I have a better idea why now, but one of the surefire, and I remember back then I made the estimate, and some people got fired up about this. I said, I'm willing to bet that 80% of the people out there blogging and hosting and whatnot are probably, if not, they're most likely closet homosexuals, because the few open homosexuals I've seen come out, they don't last very long. Nobody likes them.
Right.
So it just seems to be, I see a misogyny among them, and I know there's some idiots listening going like, but you guys are misogynists. No, we like women. We don't like sluts. There's a huge difference. Okay?
Yeah, people somehow seem to think that if you don't like sluts, that, well, all of a sudden you're gay or something. No.
What do you have against sluts, Lee? Did you not participate in your local slut walk?
I guess not. Oh, yeah, the slut walk. That was actually a real event.
It's
not even
worldwide.
kidding. Yeah.
No, it's worldwide. They're promoting.
It's worldwide now.
Yeah.
Oh, isn't
they're
that
promoting
just,
it everywhere.
That's just fantastic. That's just great. I remember seeing some slut walk promotion up in Canada, but I didn't realize it spread that far. That's just ridiculous.
It's everywhere now. They had one in New York. They had one near me. They've had one in Bangladesh. They've had one. You name it.
And people actually participate in something called the slut walk. They actually think that's a good thing.
It's a natural grassroots movement, Lee.
To be sluts?
It just happened to spread out over the world overnight and managed to get coordinated from different offices all over the world because it's a natural grassroots phenomenon.
What the hell's wrong with people? I shouldn't even ask that question.
Okay, I was going to say
why did I even bother asking that? But I'm sorry.
That.
Please continue with your points.
All right, yeah, today's topic's not sluts, it's bitches. And I do mean boy bitches. There seem to be, going back to I got a complaint. People are saying, I can't believe you think that 80% of this truth movement, et cetera, the hosts, bloggers, and I'm referring to every aspect of it, even the synchro mystic bloggers, the occultists, the new age people, all these people, it's just one big compendium of shite as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, well, 80% is kind of high. I mean, can you
I think it's a conservative estimate. Actually, I think it's much higher.
You really believe it's that high?
Yeah.
Well, wow, that's okay. I'm not sure if I agree on that one, but why do you think so many people are of that sexual persuasion?
Because of the constant references and uses of certain metaphors and symbols that I keep seeing over and over again.
You mean like rabbit hole?
Well, that could just be idiocy, idiocracy. What do you want to
right.
Stupidity. There we go. Solved. Stupidity. Oh wait, I think I have a sound clip for that.
Sounds like you came prepared.
No. I don't know where that one is. It's pretty good. It's Porky Pig saying "son of a bitch." All right. I guess I don't have it. Damn.
Yeah,
Damn
we could try to dig it up during the next break.
Okay.
I'm
All
sure
right.
we'll do one more break before the next show.
It would have been so good.
Yeah, sorry. I didn't mean to rain on your parade.
It's all right. No, it's my own fault. I wasn't prepared, though. I wasn't expecting a topic. Sorry, I got sidetracked mentally there. Bring me back. Why is that high? Or why is that low?
Yeah, I guess some people in the chat room are questioning, 80%. Because I'll be honest with you, that does seem like a high number. I certainly think there's an element. I think there's an element of that sort of thing, but that's a pretty high number.
I think I actually think it's much higher as I keep seeing like these things that, they're subtle, but they're just everywhere. Just listen to some of the things people say sometimes. I guess people could argue the same thing about me, right? But except I talk about this directly.
I'm sure people have charged you of being like that because of the topics that you bring up on your show.
Tell you what, can we come back to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd rather leave that for later because it connects to some other things I want to say about what I'm seeing. Let me first talk about what I'm experiencing.
Okay.
Okay. I'm not dodging the question, by the way. I'm sure some people are like, oh.
I'll hold him accountable. I'll make sure that he answers the question if there's anybody who still has questions. But go ahead.
I've sent my assistant, Lucifer, out to compile this information on my adversaries on the internet. She's Googling right now as we're speaking. So, Lucy, are you gonna be done soon? Yeah, she'll be done soon.
Wow, that was disturbing.
That's my assistant, Lucifer.
Really?
Yeah.
So Lucy?
Yeah, Lucy.
That's your assistant?
She's a hot redhead.
Well, it's funny. Well, I think you brought this to my attention. That in a lot of these Hollywood movies, you have a lot of these characters by the name of Lucy that have red hair. One in particular that I saw was in the most recent Die Hard film.
Yeah. There's a lot of Lucys, and they usually have red hair. There's one movie I saw where they actually had a character named Lucifer, who was very hot, but she had blonde hair. That was the one exception that I can recall. There might be a couple more, but I definitely think it's a feminine ideology. And as I said in a recent show, I think anybody out there who's afraid of Lucifer is basically afraid of vagina. So what kind of man is afraid of vagina?
I don't know. I'm not afraid of Lucifer, that's for sure. It's just a construct. First of all, I don't think you should be afraid of anything. You shouldn't, because if you live life in fear of any number of things, what's the point of living?
You're not afraid of the Illuminati?
No, I'm not. I'm more afraid, actually, I'll be honest, I'm more afraid of some of these crazy people that have been trolling the show and calling in and just spouting out schizophrenic ideologies. I'm more scared of those people than the Illuminati.
You know what? Likewise. I'm afraid of one of these, dogmatic Christian truthers who now knows that, not having listened to my show, obviously, because they can't tolerate my show because of all the butt talk. But, now having heard it in your show, they'll be standing outside my door tomorrow with a knife going, "You're serving to Lucifer!"
Yeah, exactly. And don't get me wrong, I'm not necessarily afraid of you, but if I had to be afraid of something, I'd be more afraid of those people than the Illuminati.
Yeah, there's a certain conspiratorial mindset that comes hand in hand with this conspiracy where everybody's just afraid that, the government's tracking and tracing them. And you get to a certain point, and I'm not sure if you've gotten there. You tell me. I've gotten there, which is like, They know where we are. They know who we are. They know everything about us.
Right. And they don't care to stop us in what we're doing because there's not enough people who are listening to the type of stuff that we're putting out. And they have their controlled opposition figureheads in place. And plus also a lot of this whole conspiracy movement, well, it serves their agenda as we talked about before. So they don't have a need really to go around and round up certain people. Plus,
No.
I mean, how many people are mind controlled by the TV set?
Yeah. And, my show, let's just say that for a second, I assume that my show is dangerous to the powers that be because of what I talk about, especially the pederasty and things like that. I'm a very small voice in the overall scheme of things. You know what? I get a few thousand downloads a week. That's good. It's good for Oracle, but in the big picture, look, Joe Rogan, who is an ass-worshipping little bitch boy, who a lot of people in this truth movement seem to idolize, he gets, what, millions?
Well, hey, come on, man. He's associated with UFC. He watches a bunch of guys pounce on each other and mount each other.
He must not be gay then.
It's good, wholesome entertainment.
Even though him and Kevin Smith spent a whole hour talking about sticking things up their ass, he must be a real man because he's in UFC, right?
I'm sure he is. That's another interesting. I know we're kind of getting off on our subjects and topics, but the more and more I look at professional sports, the more and more I look at it from the perspective that it's very how can I say this? It's very homosexually oriented. I mean, in football, you got guys tackling each other. UFC, you got guys mounting each other and wrestling each other. I mean, there's this homoerotic type of flavor to these sporting events, and a lot of these tough guys, these macho guys that go to watch these things, I think it's totally lost on them.
It's completely that way. I remember when I was in Brazil, I'd never seen, now this was before UFC really took off down here. I wasn't familiar with jiu-jitsu, and it was on the TV, and I'm at some bar, and I look up, and all of a sudden there's some guy sitting there with his legs spread wide open, wrapped around the back of the guy that's on top of him. And I look at that, and I'm like, that is the gayest thing I've ever seen. They're like, no, that's jiu-jitsu. I'm like,
it's gay.
There's a guy in the missionary position with another guy on top of him, and he's got his. I was in that position last night, except there wasn't a dude under me.
I'm telling you, it's disturbing, this whole UFC thing. I mean, it's really caught on, and man, I just can't watch it. Can't watch it.
It's pretty sick. I mean, we definitely go on to that. It's ridiculous how homoerotic the sports have become, especially even like the NFL. It's just.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally ridiculous. But anyway, I think we kind of got off on a tangent.
Wait, we're talking about football. Hold on.
The inches we need are everywhere around us.
All right.
Is that Al Pacino? Is that Al Pacino from
Yeah.
What's that movie? Oh God.
Any Given Sunday.
Yes, that's it. That was the one with Cameron Diaz, and I don't know. There was a bunch of. I think that was one of the films with a bunch of pretty high-profile stars.
Yeah, and a bunch of gay dudes naked and rubbing on each other and talking about how ideal it would be to have 6 inches in front of your face and fight for that extra inch. Not gay. That's not gay. Just,
No, absolutely
They just picked
not.
the number 6 at random, even though that happens to be the length of the average penis.
Come on, I'm sure it's just a coincidence. They would not put gay stuff like that in Hollywood films.
No, never.
Absolutely not.
All right, let's shift back. Although this is actually very related to that topic. There are a collection of agents, misfits, degenerates, and troublemakers, what I like to call stupid cunts, in this truth movement, at every aspect and layer of it.
Well, yeah. Well, here's the thing, and I'm sure you've heard these calls into my show, but there was one person who was called into this show that has actually gone so far as to play clips from your show. They're trying to get me to say something bad about you and trying to stir up some sort of fight. I don't know if you've heard those calls or whatnot, but you see an element of that sort of thing that goes on. People trying to, yeah.
Somebody alerted me to that. I gotta admit, I thought it was pretty funny, because it really, you claim you're not an agent, right? But you engage in agent-like tactics.
Yeah, I mean, why would you do that? I don't understand. Why would you would go through all that trouble to try to do something like that?
Maybe you're very lonely.
You know, I'm sure there's a lot of explanations, but I mean, if you're truly seeking the truth and you're doing it for the right reasons, why would you have the need to go out of your way to try to get two people fighting about something that's inconsequential? I mean, we're not going to agree 100% on everything we talk about. I mean,
God forbid.
even in the course of this show, I mean, I don't think we 100% agree with everything. I think we agree on certain things. But I mean, that's part of being human. I mean, we're supposed to be different. That's part of what being an individual is all about.
Well, no, when you announced the show, you didn't say, tomorrow I'm going to be doing a show with myself and my identical twin, Lee Jr., and we're going to be presenting you.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, I mean, what I'm trying to do with the show now is I'm just trying to have fun with it. You know, I want to get up here and have a good time and have conversations if I bring on a guest, and usually I don't bring on too many guests. But I like bringing you on as a guest because you look at all this stuff from a completely different perspective than even I do sometimes. And I think that's a good thing.
It's important because until you encounter contrarian viewpoints, you can't, how are you going to learn anything, right?
Exactly. I think that's one of the most important things you can do. But with that said, also, if you have somebody that's putting out these points of view that aren't factually based in anything, then that's not of value either.
Well, no, but it seems to me that a lot of this, this kind of behavior starts, and I'm not saying everybody who does this is an operative for anybody listening. I think there's far less operatives than they can rely on certain things. The human persona, which is basically me, feed me, look at me, and which they program. It's a self-perpetuating program they put into us via the media. And just that people are going to be petty, and it's hard to say. Sometimes people ask me, like, do you think so-and-so's an operative? Let's say this person you mentioned right there. Or are they just a moron? And at the end of the day, does it matter?
It probably doesn't. But it's just interesting to see this type of behavior taking place. And that's what I'm trying to figure out. I mean, why does this behavior take place? Is it just because as human beings we just have this weakness, this inherent weakness? And you might be right. That might be why these intelligence organizations, they can just rely upon these things happening organically because they understand the psychology of people and they understand what will happen if they create a certain environment.
They're run like big corporations, and I've worked at high levels of Fortune 10 companies. And I'll tell you this, you plan for that, okay? How do we cut costs? You squeeze out because every penny you cut out translates into millions for the few guys at the top.
Right. Well, it's no mystery that these corporations, the only people who are making any sort of real money are the people in upper management.
And it's a very select few. I was the one Fortune 10 company I worked in. I'm not at liberty to mention because it's confidentiality agreements. There was probably 20 guys at the top making millions. And
right, all their stock options
managers,
and shares, right.
Yeah, and even the high-level people under them, nah, they weren't going to ever touch that. They were just useful idiots. They would keep them right about that, congratulations, Mr. Smith, you're making $99,999,
Right, exactly.
One day you'll make $100,000 and join the club, but that won't be until we promote you.
Yeah, they'll give you 2% adjusted for inflation raises each year. If you're lucky. Sometimes they'll give you nothing.
But again, if I was working inside one of these intelligence operatives, based on what I used to do, I'd be one of the guys that was looking into this. Like, how do we stop spending money on these dipshit operatives when I can get out there and get a bunch of idiots via my contacts in Hollywood to act like this on their own? And this is exactly what they've been trained to do. They're just following out a program running in their head. I think a lot of them aren't necessarily operatives. They're just really, really stupid and brainwashed.
Well, sure, if you can get a bunch of useful idiots and dupes to do your bidding for you, then that's a win. Because that means less resources they have to spend on actually hiring somebody or training somebody to do a certain job. If you can get people to just do your bidding without having to go through that.
Yeah, look at Wikipedia. Okay, there's a great example of that. All right, there's some smart people there. Okay, it's based out of Tel Aviv, and no, the Irish guy's just a cover story. The Scottish guy's just a cover story. Their offices are in Tel Aviv. How do we create a new online encyclopedia to surpass Britannica, right, as the main source of information, right? Well, it's going to take us dozens of years and millions of dollars to pay all these writers to do it. Oh, no. Let's get the people to do this for us. All those morons out there that are willing to contribute all this information and effort for free.
Exactly. They used resources that were at their disposal, and they just directed it in a way in which they didn't have to spend any money.
Yeah, and this is exactly what I think is happening. Rather than hire disinfo operatives, let me tell you about an experience. Well, I'm not going to go into great detail because I think the most important thing when we talk about trolls is they feed on what you give back to them. They're trolls for a reason. You've heard that with the old wisdom. Do not feed the trolls, right?
Sure.
Okay, well, that's what they feed on because they're not getting paid. They're too stupid to be getting paid.
Right.
Okay.
So what they crave is the attention. If you give them attention, it's like, oh, we got him now. And
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I probably made the mistake of giving them too much attention, but
I have too in the past.
Yeah, but in some ways, I found it entertaining, just because I just find it so ridiculous that there are people who are actually so fixated on every word that I say. I mean, I don't get up here and plan these shows, folks. I mean, I just get up here and I talk. I don't spend hours pre-planning everything that I'm going to say. It just happens organically. And so I just find it kind of entertaining that actually happens.
They will always be there. And again, there might be one or two operatives in the group, but most of them are just unpaid, useful idiots. Let me tell you about my experience. I was getting really heavily trolled back in the end of last year, and it continued for like, 3 or 4 months, just really heavily. And at one point, I was just banning everybody, and then there were comments, et cetera, and then I just started assuming that everybody, certain people trying to tell me like, oh, watch out, this is happening, et cetera, and I got to a point where I was just like, all right, enough of this nonsense. I started looking into these people, and I had some other people that I know look into them, because I know some people, and they know people, and they know people. Well, so who doesn't, right?
Right, exactly.
All right. And the more I found out, the more disgusted I became. Because all of these people, wherever I looked, they're all very seedy. And like I mentioned earlier, they're all connected to each other by 1 or 2 degrees at most. We're not talking about, everybody's connected through 6 degrees. We're talking about a very direct connection change between a lot of these people.
Right.
And the one thing they seem to have in common is they're all very, very seedy. And what I noticed was, again, these are really small-time people. They might have like, I've heard one of them admit like, me and my 20 listeners came over to this network, or something like that.
Yeah, it's like some online gang of keyboard commandos. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and what I've noticed is that they spend a lot of time attacking each other, exposing each other. And they use that word. That's one of those words that's just lost any meaning. Expose. So and so exposed. So and so exposed. Because these people end up exposing each other, and you're wondering, well, look, these guys are friends. I've actually heard them, on each other's show. Why are they exposing each other? They're having a falling out.
Yeah, and a lot of it's just theater. It's all staged. Or it's orchestrated in some way.
Like the Alex Jones Jack Blood fight we talked about earlier, and I'm wondering about the Jack Blood and the Alex Jones fight with some other network personalities. It seems like they happen every few months. Oh, Alex Jones is a piece of crap, blah 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 blah, and he tells his side of the story. Oh, they're Jew bashers, et cetera, and then they move on.
Or
whatever,
COINTELPRO. He claims that everybody that is against him is COINTELPRO, and that's every time.
Exactly. I prefer to say Montel Pro,
Montel Pro, okay.
Montel Williams Pro. They're
Montel Williams.
They're professional actors.
Yeah, Montel Williams. that dude's got a crazy talk show.
My sister was actually on a show one time.
I think you might have mentioned that to me at one point.
Yeah, acting.
Wait a minute.
So
they're actors. Okay. Well, it's kind of like the Jerry Springer show. I mean, you got to be kidding me. I mean, you're telling me that those people are actually that way? No. No, they're paid actors. And I think that's an interesting correlation because I think you see a lot of that in the media and, of course, in the conspiracy truth movement. I mean, Alex Jones is an actor.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a confirmed fact. He's been in a couple Hollywood films. His likeness has been in what were those two films? Waking Life and Scanner Darkly. So
and
he is by definition an actor.
How many actors does he bring on his show? How many personalities? How many people does he hang out with? What you think that's because he's a radio personality? You're like, oh, hey, you're somebody. Let's hang out because I'm somebody too. You know?
Yeah, Charlie Sheen. He's had some rap stars on.
Yeah.
The KRS or whatever his name is.
The guy from Duran Duran.
Oh, well, you heard about that guy.
Yeah.
You know about his fake penis that he made? No?
No, I didn't know about the fake penis that he made, but I do know that Duran Duran, because I've spent a lot. Actually, I'm going to make an announcement. I'm going to be on Oracle again this week. This Thursday. I'm going to be on Nonconformity Live with Mike and Dave. We're going to be talking about music, which is a very important aspect of this control system. But so I just wanted to make that announcement. And yeah, one of the things I would raise is there was a lot of good music coming out at the time Duran Duran came out. But Duran Duran, unlike the other bands around them, bent over and let people stick their penis up their arse, and that's why they blew up and got famous.
Well, there's certainly an element of that involved with the music industry in Hollywood. But just in case anybody doesn't know what I was referring to, just look up Warren Cucurello Rock Rod. And that's the dildo that he created, I guess based off of his own male organ, and he sold it in various pornographic and adult venues.
Oh, they like young men with large penises. You will get far in Hollywood with such a career.
No, good stuff. It's good to know.
As long as you're willing, you don't mind having your rabbit hole drilled once in a while.
Yeah, I think I'll pass on that. But it's interesting because man, I mean that's a whole other topic in of itself. But I just find it interesting that Warren Cucurello has been he's been on the Jones Show several times, and I find it interesting that Jones never brought up the fact that this guy has been involved in some of this stuff.
Well, he's not going to. Come on. Is Jones going to talk about what he was involved in at Bohemian Grove or what he did to Jason Vermis? No.
There should be full disclosure here, though. Don't you agree, Mr. Rebel?
In some cases, you know what? I'd rather not know.
Yeah, I can't argue with you on that one. I think we can safely say that I don't think either of us want to know specifically what took place in the Grove or what took place before the Grove or after.
Or in his backyard.
Or in his backyard in a tent. I don't think any of us want to know what happened there.
But I want to go back to these stage fights. The important thing to note there is let's just look at basic marketing. And, if you've been in the business world, you should understand this, all right? For example, this is the first one that comes to mind. I've got a listener / reader that's been around for a while, and he decided to start blogging on his own. He goes by the name of Living Tiki. I think his blog's called Age of Volcanoes. Free plug. But I just said that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I can say, oh, you know what? It's pretty good. And he might get, I don't know, 10 people listening, might go and check it out, maybe 20 max.
Yeah, I might get a few people that go over there.
All right. Now, if I come on the air and go like, that son of a bitch, he's involved with crack whores, and he, oh, excuse me.
Yeah, but you get 10 times the amount if you do that.
Exactly. If I'm like, and he's saying this shite about me, and he's a degenerate, he's scum, and he needs to be taken down. The numbers just blew up. Now you got like 90% of the people listening going to him.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's why all these little bitch boys in the conspiracy movement are always attacking each other.
Right, because if you're constantly attacking people, well, I mean, you're going to get people who are going to tune in, correct?
Exactly. And, that's why, and I notice these guys, they all hang out together, they all swim in the same circles. And the other thing that I noticed as I was looking into it, and I'm saying there's some really shady people in this, some really shady people. I found people with their names appearing on police reports over and over again, people that have been arrested with drugs and served no time, which, again, what about mandatory minimums, right?
Yeah, why are they let off? I mean, generally in this country, since we're such a police state, what happens is that if you have like a drug offense, like let's say you get caught with a pound of cocaine, you're going to go away for a while.
Yeah. So you got to wonder when somebody's actually involved in distributing fair amounts of drugs, from what I've read in at least 2 or 3 of these individuals, right? They did almost no time, and now they're doing a radio show?
Yeah, talking
Or a
about freedom.
All right. These are people that have been compromised. And I don't know who's running them, whether or not they're just somebody who's at the beck and call of they're basically bitches for life. They're at the beck and call of any agency that wants to use them for whatever purpose. Let's say they want to build a case against me, you, or somebody else, some other insignificant person, right? These people are always at their beck and call. And what I've noticed about these people is very few of them have any talent, because I see no originality coming out of them. But they're compromised. They're at the mercy of any intelligence agency. Now, when I say intelligence agency, I include the ADL for that purpose, because the ADL has free reign to do whatever it wants in this country. So they have access to these people. I mean, like, really, would you want these people hanging around you? I think that's where a lot of people in this movement screw up, because you and I, what we're talking about here is being wary of the individuals around us.
Absolutely.
And,
yeah,
a lot of people don't know that. Like, you could have one of these people over at your house, God forbid. They might see a pipe there.
Yeah, you have to be careful, and I'm saying this with a real serious tone. I mean, there are certain people that you have to be careful of, and you don't want to let certain people to get too close to you. Otherwise, bad things are going to happen.
Exactly.
And I mean that. I 100% mean that. I think you're absolutely correct on that. You got to have some sort of discernment.
You have to, because I mean, even if you think it's innocent, because we're, like you said, we're all in this together, we're promoting the message, etc. You appear on somebody's show, whatever, etc. You think you're on together, you promote their work, they promote yours. And then what happens is this person is revealed as a degenerate, and guess what? You're 1 degree away from them, so they've got you right there. That's all they need to do. See, these boys are expendable. And when I say boys, I mean with boys with an I, and they are bitches, and they are expendable. And all they can, they don't care about these guys. They've already got them by the short hairs. All right, these guys are basically, they would have turned them into informants, except they're so insignificant, so they didn't say, like, look, this is something that's coming and rising, this truth movement. Get inside it. Just get to know people. You don't have to do anything. Just be their friend, etc. And whenever they want to drag one of these people down, they can drag in all the people down around them. And I think that's kind of what's happening.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's certainly an element of that that's inherent in a lot of this. And that's the thing. I think you're much better off if you want to get involved in this type of stuff and research and information and put out information. My suggestion is to be as independent as possible. And if you do that, I think you'll absolutely have a much better experience than if you're tied in with different groups or factions or whatever.
Yeah, and a lot of it, when I start hearing this message of collectivism from people, that's my first red flag. It's like, we need to work together, et cetera, and it's like, no, because that's exactly how we get dragged down, because you need to know everyone around you, and you can kind of guess people. I hear people what they say. I listen to, let's say, I listen to yours. I wouldn't be on your show if I didn't listen to it and think that you were a guy that I could get on a show with. I wouldn't be here otherwise, Lee.
Well, I appreciate that you have confidence in me.
And I hope I'm right.
No, trust me. And look, I could, the thing is, even if I said this, it wouldn't matter. There'd be people who don't believe me. But
the first thing you'd say is trust me.
Right. And look, I am doing this because I think it's important. There's no other reason why I'm doing this. I'm not doing this because I work for some intelligence organization or any of these other theories that have been put out there. I'm doing this because I think the type of stuff that we're talking about in this show and other shows that I've done, it's important. And I just want people to be free. I think that's the ultimate goal that I have, at least. I want people to live on a planet or in a society in which people are as free as possible to pursue happiness as they see fit. And I'm sure you would agree with that.
Yeah, and I'm sure you wouldn't have had me on this show, because and people think like, what is he getting ready? I'm sure there's some people out there because they want the drama. They're like, ooh, what is Celtic Rebel getting to drop on Lee? He's going to expose Lee. No, you wouldn't have had me on this show otherwise. I'm sure.
Right. I mean, honestly, I mean, there's been nothing that you have done over the past. I don't know how long have you been doing a show? A couple of years now?
About a year and a half. I've been on Oracle. Yeah.
Yeah, there has been nothing in that course of time that I've known you, and we've been, of course, having your show on the network, in which you've done something to make me believe that you're somehow shady or working for some type of organization or have an ulterior motive. Now, again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you have me completely fooled. I don't know.
Maybe I'm engaged in tactics that the other shady people are too stupid to have figured out that they need to get away from.
Right, but as far as I'm concerned, if you had like some sort of operation or some sort of ulterior motive, 1.5 years is a long time to wait until you actually go ahead and go forward with whatever agenda that you have. Generally, a lot of these people they spend like a few weeks or like a month or so, then they hit you with all this weird stuff.
Exactly.
That's at least what I've noticed in the past.
Yeah, and especially people. I've noticed people. I have this phrase called goal hangers, where people who are basically these talentless individuals that they don't have material, they can't create, they can't just sit down there. They need to like basically regurgitate a lot of information. And I've noticed, like, I'll do a show, and then within a couple of days of me doing a show, let's say like 2 days before, they've been going like, we need to take down these scumbag Illuminati Freemason people, okay? And then the following day they're like, you with me, truthers? And then the following day they're like, oh, hey, the truth movement sucks. The truth movement's bad. We just like a complete 180 around switch, and there's a few people out there, and I'm not going to name them, because again, these are small time people, but you should be able to figure this stuff out yourself, people. Like Lee was just saying here, you listen to somebody, they've got a body of work out there, listen to it, and you should be able to you don't need somebody holding your hand, you don't need me or Lee Rogers to come on here and tell you tonight, so-and-so is a fraud.
Right. There's a lot of people out there that can be easily outed as frauds if you just you just use some common sense. I mean, Alex Jones and the gun rights rally. All you got to do is look at that video of him at the gun rights rally, and you can immediately see that there's something wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean,
exactly.
I mean, come on. That's all.
He looks like he's like all coked up when he gets there. By the way.
I don't know. He looked completely out of his mind.
Yeah, he did. He's just like, all right, I just snorted like 7 lines of coke. Let's go.
Maybe he just drank 7 Red Bulls or something.
I don't know, man. He was fired up.
I don't know what he did.
Out of his mind.
Yeah, his eyes were bugging out of his head. It was just ridiculous.
Yeah, he looked like he was on whatever.
Maybe he'll be doing that before the end the Fed rallies.
In front of a closed building, I think that'll be really effective.
It'd be very effective. I mean, just think about all the people that you reach yelling at a closed building.
See, the one thing that you get that I don't get, and I guess there's a lot of Alex Jones trolls, unpaid Alex Jones trolls out there that, fortunately, I don't get too many of. Speaking of these wanksters, or wankers, or whatever you want to call them, douches, there's all sorts of names.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're pretty much interchangeable, correct?
Yeah. There was one guy that appeared out of nowhere a while back, and it just really weird, because we're like, who the hell is he? I remember, because he was involved in the people I was blogging with before I became a host. And some guy appeared out of nowhere calling himself the Supreme Rockefeller Messiah.
Yeah, you've told me about this character. Now, yeah, just for the benefit of the audience, what was this guy all about?
Apparently, he was the messenger the Rockefellers had selected to spread their message of the coming New World Order, right?
Okay, yeah.
And a couple people had him on their shows. He didn't last very long, I guess because he wasn't that interesting.
I'm surprised with a name like Supreme Rockefeller Messiah, you'd think that he'd have thousands of fans.
Well, I think he tried, and it turned out one guy wrote an article exposing him. I think I give some credence to this guy. That he looked into the character, found his real name, etc. The guy was a former pump and dump penny stock swindler out of Jersey.
Ah, okay. Kind of reminds me of what was his name? Oh, jeez. Who's that guy in that photo that you were showing me? Trudeau?
Gary Trudeau?
Yeah, Trudeau. Yeah.
Was he involved in something like that?
I don't know. He was involved in some shady stuff. I don't know if it was exactly stock trading. But
you know what?
there's a number of these people that are like that, where they have like these. He sold these books. Trudeau, those infomercials.
Okay, yeah. He's done very well.
Okay, so maybe it's not entirely related, but it's kind of the same type of deal. I know that Trudeau was involved with some sort of scandal with fraud and the whole nine yards. So
there's some very shady characters in this, especially near the top. But here's just even in the lower levels, this guy appears out of nowhere. Yeah, who did pump and dump stock swindles? Degenerates, little mafia wannabe boys. And this is it. They fooled some people. And now, why are they getting to the truth movement? Because this is a growing movement. There's opportunity here. If you can establish yourself as a voice within it, you could make some money at this, especially if you got a product to sell. Let's say some snake oil or something like that. You might do okay.
Yeah, if you sell something that claims that cures cancer or cures herpes or gives you, the penis extension, I don't know. That doesn't really matter. I mean, if you establish yourself as a trustworthy voice, then you can sell all these things, and people will buy the products. And, people have made fortunes off of it.
Yeah, and it shows that this is going to be a growing field. I hope I'm not, being negative here in terms of drawing people in, but this is a booming market. I mean, look, 5 years ago, I couldn't talk to anybody at this stuff. Now I'm at my weekly redneck bar that I hang out at, at the end of the night. And there's young dudes in their 20s going like, dude, you ever heard of the Illuminati?
Well, yeah, the information is much more prevalent. And plus also, I think a lot of the information we talk about here, it's been interwoven into pop culture. So you kind of have this dynamic that's taking place where you have a culture of people that are openly talking about this stuff. And then in conjunction, you have Hollywood that's kind of dropping clues in their movies and films, and it's a very interesting correlation.
Planting the seed, etc., and now it's taking root. They watch the History Channel. They're like, all of a sudden, everybody's into ancient aliens, I mean, I couldn't talk to anybody about this stuff 4 or 5 years ago. Now everybody wants to talk about it, but I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Yeah, but that's been really big over the past several years, and especially because of the History Channel. And it's funny, they call it the History Channel. And what do they show mostly on there? You got ancient aliens, you got doomsday prophecy, and stuff on secret societies. That's really the only shows I see on that channel anytime I flip through it.
Blame the Freemasons, blame whatever, right, etc. It seems like we can kind of see what we fell for a while back, because now it's being presented to the same dupes that 5 years ago would have looked at me and you and go like, you boys are crazy.
There are no Freemasons. There's no Illuminati. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, that's one of the things about the Freemasons that kind of bothers me is the fact that they seem to be an easy scapegoat, because this is an organization that, of course, they're everywhere. All right, and they're fairly secretive. But I mean, that's not the end all be all of what's going on. But they want people to believe that, the Freemasons, that's there's some bad stuff going on there, and there probably is. There's probably a lot of bad stuff going on there, but it's not the whole story.
No, it's not the whole story. And I think, again, we've heard about the Freemasons being infiltrated at the higher levels, but look, I've met 32nd degree Freemasons, and they're nice people. They're good people. And, they talk to me about the same thing, like, look at these boys. They're acting like a bunch of little girls. How are they evil? They're like, oh, God, this depresses me. And the same stuff we talk about.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, just because granted, the membership in organizations like the Freemasons, you have, I don't know how many people are part of the organization, but it's in the millions. Not all those people are in on the conspiracy. Even people who have reached higher levels of the order, let's say. The thing is that you only have a select few that are controlling things and steering things. And there are a lot of our people that don't really understand what the organization is truly all about at the top.
Yeah. And it would be the same thing for what we're talking about right now. I mean, look, somebody could listen to some of this and go, oh, hey, the truth movement, the conspiracy movement, it's all a bunch of CIA operatives and evil people. So, we get associated with that.
Yeah, I mean, and just so that I'm 100% clear, I don't think everybody that's involved with this is bad. I met a lot of,
same here.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, I met a lot of good people doing this. And
I've met a few. I'm going to correct you, Lee. I met a few good people doing
yeah, I'm sorry. You're right. I should say a few, because quite frankly, I have met, it's hard to look at from a numerical perspective, but I've met a lot of bad people, and I've met some good people. That's probably a better way to explain it. But basically what I'm trying to say is that not everybody involved with this is bad, but there is a bad element that is involved with this type of research and this type of community.
But one of the points I'm making, I guess it's because it's becoming clear to me where I feel a bit foolish, considering what I just said earlier, where I talked about how this is the alternative media is becoming a force to be reckoned with as far as the number of minds we're reaching. Is we see what's going on over in Hollywood, right? A bunch of scumbags, a bunch of degenerates, a bunch of pederasts, a bunch of people that you would not want coming into your house.
Right.
Except you let them in through the TV because that's different.
Oh, that's fine if it's on a screen.
Yeah. So, as this media becomes more force and the powers that be, whoever they may be, realizes that this is a force to be reckoned with, how long did I honestly, and this is where I feel a bit foolish, think it would be before the alternative media, just like the mainstream media is filled with like all these degenerate little bitch boys, and Hollywood, which is filled with all these degenerate little bitch boys, would not be infiltrated and taken over by a bunch of degenerate little bitch boys.
Right. And you could look at it from other perspectives, but either way, it is clear that that sort of element is inherent in the alternative media. There's no question about it. And you have to understand that the alternative media is absolutely reaching more and more people every day. I mean, that's a fact, because more and more people are getting internet connections, more and more people are looking at the corporate controlled media and seeing what's happening with the economy and seeing what's happening with the wars and everything. They realize that something's not right, so they start looking into things further. And that's when they come across alternative information and alternative personalities. And so in that respect, the alternative media is absolutely growing, but it also ensures that the element of shady people and operatives and just psychopaths that are associated with it also increases.
Yep. Now, I mentioned earlier that I'd be getting back to this question, right? The idea of the homosexual element.
Yes, yes. I was going to actually ask you about that.
Or the deviant homosexual element.
Yes.
Well, the other thing I started noticing when I started looking at the people that were trolling me, harassing me, whatnot, is, again, their connections, and there seems to be this theme, which is this degeneracy, especially, not all homosexuality is degeneracy, but these people tend to be the degenerate homosexuals. So what I see is a lot, again, I think I'm being conservative with my 80% estimate. Maybe not. This is just where I'm thinking. When you start looking into these people and really looking into them, I don't know if you remember, there was a character that just out of the blue, I guess he was harassing Alex Jones, right? Remember a guy named Troy from West Virginia?
Oh, of course. He's actually called in my show a few times. I had a few very intelligent discussions with him.
Okay, by intelligent, I think you mean the complete opposite.
Exactly. Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Okay, well, yeah. All right, here's some character that just comes out of nowhere. I thought it was Billy Bob Thornton at first. I didn't think it was a real character.
Maybe it really is Billy Bob Thornton. Who the hell knows? Well, actually, there's video of him out there, so. But you're right, that's messed up. But go ahead.
But I remember, early on I was involved, and this is probably where I screwed up, MySpacing, whatever, trying to get the truth out, all this other nonsense. And somebody had posted, I guess they were tired of him harassing social, they set him up, and they had some guy call him up, said he was responding to his gay personals ad, and there's a recording, I wish I kept it, of this guy, Troy from West Virginia, engaging in phone sex with some other dude.
I remember something like that, yeah.
Why is that? Again, we have, what do you have? You know, the macho man exterior, which, of course, you know, if anybody's listening to the Village People, you know, that's a bluff. And this homosexual background, you know? Why is this so prevalent? Especially inside this conspiracy movement.
Well, you brought up some interesting evidence. I mean, I think that Jones clip that you played earlier in the show is, well, it definitely gives new meaning to Ride the Gravy Train. Which
the gravy train has always been what it's been, but you know, Lee, are you sure you're thinking in the proper frame of mind there?
How much pot are you smoking right now? Admit you're stoned. Yeah, I can just hear it.
Well, I don't typically smoke that that substance. I'm sorry to disappoint you.
But if you're questioning Alex Jones, you must be high.
And it must be COINTELPRO and high, yes.
High COINTELPRO.
Yep, absolutely.
Or MONTELPRO. So, yeah, this gay side of it is the one that nobody really wants to talk about. Really, no one wants to talk about. And I see very little people talking about, you know, because all of a sudden you're like, you're a Nazi, right? There's a meaningless phrase right there, Nazi.
Well, yeah. Well, here's the thing. I mean, there's no reason why we can't talk about these things. I mean, at first, all that clip that you played from Jones was incredibly disturbing. That's one thing. His trip to the Bohemian Grove is, of course, highly suspect. I know for a fact that clip that you're talking about. I haven't heard the clip specifically, but I know there's other people who have heard it, and I'm trying to remember 100% on this. I might be wrong, but do you know who Lucas is?
Yeah.
Okay, if I remember correctly, he was tied in somehow with that. There's something going on between him and Troy from West Virginia.
See, all these guys are connected.
Yeah.
All these guys are connected 1 degree or 2 degrees at most.
So what does that tell you? And look, I've had Lucas on the show, but what happened was that after I had him on a couple of times, oh my God, he called me like at 2 a.m. sometime and was trying to tell me that he thought there were government agents after him or something, or there's like some weird thing happening with some chick in St. Louis that he was going to see, or it was just weird.
Wait, the Mossad sent the swallow after him?
Something like that. I don't know what the deal was, but he called me at like 2 a.m. to tell me this, and I was just like, oh my God.
A lot of nutters.
This is not right. This is absolutely not right. And then after a while, I started to realize, wait a minute, this guy's name is Lucas? Lucas, as in Lucifer? What?
He wants to be a girl, then.
I don't know. Well, I don't know if that's necessarily the case, but either way, I mean, there's some shady dealings going on there because he's had associations with Jones, Brave New Books, and Troy from West Virginia. So
there's a lot of. Actually, that's kind of where I was going. There's a lot of weird stuff coming out of Austin. It connects to this whole gay side of the whole equation.
Yeah, well, what do you think about all this crap coming out from Austin, Texas? That place is friggin' ridiculous.
Well, let me just say one thing about Lucas. Okay, well, look, we all make mistakes, Lee. Okay, I mean, you know, I got to admit, his information was really compelling when I first heard it.
Absolutely, that's why I brought him on the show. But
yeah,
you know, just my personal experience with him after we did the shows, it was just really weird.
I heard him on Red Ice after he was on your show, and that's when I realized the guy was like a complete loon or just a complete full of crap operative. Because he was talking about how when this event happens, people will have their brainstem disconnected electromagnetically from their spine, and they will only be functioning on the reptilian side of their brain. So they'll basically be walking around just trying to eat each other like zombies.
Yeah, I heard about that. and did he say that the reason why for all these camps, they have a bunch of trains with guillotines in them, so they can
guillotine trains,
so they can take all these zombies and cut their heads off.
And this just shows you just kind of like the Bill Deagle story about the attack baboons or whatever, you know, like how stupid people in this movement are.
I'm sure there are people who believe that.
Yeah, because I'm sitting there, as I'm listening to this, I'm going, okay, if I find a zombie, let's just say for a second I believe that this was going to happen, right? Brown dwarf star comes, zombies on the streets. I mean, it would sound like paradise. I could go around and kill all my neighbors who are really annoying.
But you're like The Walking Dead. I don't know if you've seen that TV series.
Yeah, but no, I can't. I can't kill them because I need to round them up, put them in the back of my car, and drive them to the guillotine train platform. That sounds a lot more dangerous than killing them.
That is just totally messed up.
All right,
Well,
load up, zombies. We're going to take you to the guillotine trains.
well,
And
the
the show's like, no thought.
Yeah, well, the thing that's so ridiculous about it is that literally that TV series, The Walking Dead, is pretty much describing his theory, the entire thing. I mean, maybe not everything, but if you see the first the first season of the show, they finally get to the CDC, and his doctor explains like how the disease works and everything, and how these people get turned into zombies, and it's kind of the same thing that he's talking about in his theory.
Yeah, it's just completely made up bull crap.
Right.
Now, I know my work is disagreeable to a lot of people, but I kind of prefer this because people there's a certain level of idiocy. People come in to listen to my show when I start talking about the anal stuff, they freak out and they think there's something seriously wrong with me and they go away, which is okay because that's like an intelligence test. People come in and listen to me think that it's all about that. I don't want them listening to me. So I'm glad because I don't want, maybe this is one of the reasons why I get trolled less than you because they're like, he's crazy.
Well, yeah, maybe what I should be doing on my show is I should be telling people that there are certain types of people that I don't want listening to this show. Just don't listen to it. I don't want this segment of people listening to this show because, bad things might happen if you listen to it and you're going to go crazy. So we don't want that to happen. So it's best that you just leave.
So that's or come up with what I've come up with, which is something that makes you discredited in a lot of people's eyes, but keeps away the lunatics. So that's fine with me. I'd rather keep the lunatics away. One of the things is, by my line of research, I've been able to understand a lot of what's going on as far as the symbolism, right? You mentioned the fisting thing, right? The fist symbolism, right?
Fisting thing.
The fist symbolism in the Occupy Wall Street. Well, it's the same thing you see with the black what do you call it? The civil rights movement.
Yeah,
same
Black
thing
Panthers.
Same thing you see with the civil rights movement. Same thing you see with the feminist movement. Always a fist inserted inside a circle. In other words, you're getting ready to be done in. Okay, because that's how they harm somebody, by putting a fist inside their anus. This is like a warning to us. Okay, this could be the death knell of America if this movement takes off, and I'm hoping it doesn't.
Well, because they're so-called. Here's the thing. This is what I don't understand. I think this is why I took so much heat in that article I wrote. Is that you have a lot of people in this so-called movement that thinks that what's happening down there in Wall Street is overall positive. I don't think it's positive.
Oh, no, it's horrible.
It's terrible. It's
horrific.
absolutely terrible because these people are not promoting an ideology of freedom.
Well, Lee, what did we have a week before the fisting movement took place? This Occupy Wall Street movement.
Oh, jeez, refresh my memory.
We had the twist.
Yeah, the friggin' Operation Twist. Grenade.
Okay. And okay, my work again, going back to it, which it's so disagreeable with a lot of people, but again, following the symbols, following this thing that they keep using over and over again. The twist, okay? A twist is what you might do if you're trying to get a large object in a small orifice. You have to twist it. You can't just shove it in.
Yeah, I was wondering why the hell they called it that. I mean, I've never seen, the Federal Reserve has never come out and said, oh, we got this operation.
Yeah, it's called the twist.
Operation Twist. I mean, and that does have a kind of bizarre sexual connotation.
Correct. Twist, and then what happens following the twist? A shout, right? Because you've just been ass raped.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody's laughing at all this.
Oh, they are. They are. Trust me. We see all the candidates, right? You've got all these presidential candidates walking around filleting corn dogs, right?
Oh, God. There were people showing me and sending me these photos of Michelle Bachmann, inhaling this friggin' 10-foot corn dog down her gullet.
Okay, so what's a corn dog? It's a hot dog with a crusty covering.
Yes.
What's a cornhole?
Yeah.
It's a corn dog that's been dipped in a cornhole, and now they're showing the candidates. America's about to get ass raped. That's pretty much, they're telling you right out in the open.
Yeah.
I mean, I know this is disagreeable to people, but this is what's happening.
Yeah, it's totally out of control. I'm sorry. It's just kind of a disgusting picture that's been put.
Yeah,
in
I know.
mind.
I know it's disgusting, but see, they laugh because we're ignorant of this, and this is kind of what my work is about. I look at these symbols over time, and it seems like they're always getting, this is what they're into. Okay, I'm not into this. I'm just looking at the symbols, and I know this is disagreeable with a lot of people, but why would they have the twist? And now they've got the fisting, the corn dogs, and all that, all conjecturing about the same time.
It is, yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, they like to throw this stuff out in the open through their symbols, and a lot of this stuff, well, it's completely lost on people.
And what you have is a lot of disinfo agents. Again, we talked about that earlier. A lot of these big names out in the conspiracy movement. Look, I bought the Tex Mars books. It's like what? It's huge. You know which one I'm talking about? The one where he interprets all the symbols for you.
Codex Magica.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's some interesting stuff in the book. I don't, I mean, interesting photos.
But I think a lot of the stuff, especially the stuff he points to Satan as opposed to these pederasts, is where the disinfo takes place.
Right. Yeah.
Okay,
I agree. I think the whole Satan thing is put out there as part of one of those deals where, okay, oh yeah, these people are just a bunch of Satan worshippers. But it goes far beyond that. It's far more.
It goes far beyond that. Because who the hell's Satan? I mean, no pun intended.
That guy with what? Red pants?
Yeah, let's go kill the Satanists. You know what?
Claus.
Yeah. I mean, there's people out there going, we need to round up the Satanists. What Satanists? You're going to go find your local Satanist lodge, in town,
There are very few people who are actually actively practicing Satanists. I mean, you got the Church of Satan, but they're not even really that big.
No, and you got a bunch of rock stars, but what are they doing? They're promoting the symbols, but again, they're part of the disinfo campaign. Same as people like Tex Mars are, because you listen to Tex Mars and you know he's full of crap.
Well, Tex Mars, he also promotes a lot of, what is it? He promotes a lot of the Jew World Order stuff, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, but I think he does it incorrectly. I mean, some of that stuff is actually right, in my opinion.
Oh, I agree.
But,
yeah, sure. Like the whole Zionist angle. I mean, there's certainly an element of Jewish mysticism and elite Zionists and Jews that are in positions of great power in the banking system, media. I mean, that's undeniable.
Yeah, but he's trying to turn it against the Jewish people as a whole. That's what he's doing. It's the Jews,
Yeah, it's all and that's one of the ideologies that is put out that I don't agree with. That it's all entirely the Jews and
correct. I've got a neighbor here who's Jewish. Her 13-year-old daughter wears a Hannah Montana T-shirt. She is not part of the New World Order, or she would not be allowing her daughter to wear that whore shirt.
Right, exactly. Right. I mean, they just don't know.
Yeah, they're just ignorant.
Right. Exactly. So you can't really classify the entire number of Jews that are out there as being part of this conspiracy. It's only a small number. It's just like the same thing when I talked about the Freemasons earlier. Yeah, there's a few people within that organization that are doing bad things and steering that organization in a direction that is favorable to a few, but it's not the whole lot of people that are Freemasons.
Yeah, and same thing with this truth movement, right?
Yeah, I would say that that's a fair statement, although I think with the so-called truth movement, there's, you have a lot of personalities that are doing some bad things.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And to get back to where we were earlier, you had asked, okay, and I'm trying to bring this back. It seems to me that Texas is a center point of a lot of this crap.
Yes.
Well,
you got Ron Paul. He's from Texas. You have, of course, Jones. He's down there. RBN is down there. A lot of these networks have popped up that are...
A lot of them.
Yeah.
A lot of these shady characters come out of there. You mentioned the guy Lucas. What happened with him? He was like some guy that hung out at Brave New Books, and all of a sudden he's getting millions of views and on all these shows.
Yeah, it just happened. I think, was he on Coast to Coast also?
I think so.
Yeah, and George Norrie is, of course, tied in directly with Jones and all these people.
Yeah, and I guess this weekend CNN apparently confirmed that there's a black dwarf, or I'm not sure. I think by a black dwarf that might be code for like a midget with a cock that's twice as big as he is, and he's black.
I think it was a brown dwarf, but yeah, but you're right. You're right on the CNN piece. There was a piece that came out in which they basically gave credibility to all these people promoting the Planet X doomsday theory. And so then all these people ran out and said, oh, look what CNN reported. And, they're trying to throw fuel on the fire.
Yeah, but let's not forget that every year around a certain time, they also report that Planet X has been spotted and will be visible in the next, to the telescopes or the visible eye in the next, 20 days or something like that. How many years have you heard that story circulating?
Yeah, it never is. Back in 2008, 2009, there were people put out YouTube videos, Nibiru Shock or something, saying that Australians would see Nibiru.
Exactly. It's always Australians. The Australians see it first.
Yeah. New Zealand, Australia, or Antarctica, they'll see it first. And, well, they didn't. You don't see Planet X down there. Sorry, folks.
Yeah, or the Nazis wait, where are the Nazis located? They're in Antarctica. They would be sending us a telegraph telling us that, because, they've got the old technology.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they got their Nazi flying saucers down there.
Yeah, they'd be telling us that.
Yeah,
Planet X is within sight.
It's totally ridiculous. So, I mean, you see all these elements, and I know we're coming up towards the end of the show. It's hard to believe that 3 hours have passed by so fast. But, I just think it's important to point out and illustrate the fact that a lot of these people that are associated with the movement itself, you have to use some discernment, and you have to question. And the best thing you can do is just research this stuff for yourself and not pay attention to personalities, and don't take people's word for anything.
Exactly.
You have to look into everything for yourself and discern. Discern. If you can't do that, well, I mean, there really isn't a whole lot of hope for you. Because if you can't think critically, well, what's the point?
And just to get back to that point, Lee, Dallas and Austin just seem to be an underground gay capital for a lot of things that are going on. The way I look at it per my, research looking into this is that Dallas seems to be like a high-level old pederast capital. That's why I think the Boy Scout Museum is located there.
Is it really?
Yeah.
You serious?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
I don't know if you know this. One of my readers just surprised me of this. The founder of the Boy Scouts wrote a book called Scouting for Boys. The same year the Boy Scouts were founded.
Scouting for Boys. There's nothing perverted about that. Are you freaking serious, man?
No, I'm serious.
Come on. I mean...
No, you can't make this stuff up. This is true.
That is messed up.
And I have another contact who's he knows a lot of stuff. He's an old fag. He doesn't have much time left, and he talks openly if he can bear, he's a bit long-winded. And I decided to ask him, I'm like, what's up with Austin? He goes, what do you mean? I'm like, is that just like one big homo fest? And he goes, how did you know?
How did you know? Well,
it's like an underground gay capital, like bigger than San Francisco in the middle of Texas.
Yeah, well, Austin has always been historically very left-wing, and it's funny. I've heard stories about, I'm not sure if I should say this, but I don't care, but of John Statmiller having some tendencies in that persuasion. I don't know if that's true or not.
Well, the way it seems to me is...
But, with everything else that you're talking about here, I mean, maybe there's some credence to that. I don't know.
Well, you've got... Okay, let's say you want to be in Hollywood, right? What do? You get on a bus and you go to Los Angeles. Now, I don't know where the media is based, because it's a theory, but let's say you want to work your way up to the media. Well, you need to start in the low levels, right? All dogs need to start down low. Maybe Austin is the capital of the media, Because we keep hearing this thing about how you can't become president unless you get the backing of the Texan people behind you, right? The Texas politicians, the Texas insiders. And maybe insiders is the appropriate word there.
That could be, that could be derived a number of different ways, sure.
Maybe that's why the Bushes had to move to Texas. I mean, I don't know, it's just really weird. What's this weird thing about Texas? It's always like you got to go through Texas. And even if you look at the JFK assassination, even in Oliver Stone's movie, I mean, he made a couple points about this. All these guys involved with the assassination were gay.
Well, you had what was that guy's name? Shaw.
Clay Shaw.
Yeah, Clay Shaw, and I'm going off the top of my head, and it's late at night, so my brain's not functioning 100%. But yeah, I mean, in that movie, there certainly was an element of that was definitely portrayed to the audience. You had Joe Pesci's character.
Yeah, exactly. I forget who he was modeled after.
Yeah, it was him and Tommy Lee Jones. They even talked about the John Birch Society for a little bit in the show.
Yeah, why does all this stuff come out of Texas? What's there? What's going on there? You know, you've heard the expression, the steers and queers, right?
Only steers and queers come from Texas, and you don't look like a steer, so that kind of narrows it down. That's from Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm just saying there's definitely something out there. And it's just weird to me how these people, like you mentioned, Lucas, come out of Texas and all of a sudden they're on coast to coast.
Yeah, it's very weird. Yeah, because I guarantee you they're not going to be asking me to appear on Coast to Coast AM anytime soon.
I haven't gotten the call yet.
Yeah. Nor would I even, I'll be honest with you, nor would I even accept an invitation on Coast to Coast AM or any of these mainstream corporate control stations as is, because I really don't have any desire to be a part of that. No desire whatsoever. I'd rather just speak out on what we have here, and, that's it.
Actually, I would beg differently. I would actually do it.
You would do it? Well, yeah, that's your call. I mean, just for me personally, I don't know. I'm so disgusted with those people. I don't want anything to do with them, even if they invite me on. But,
well,
but
a
anyway.
certain personality we were talking about earlier did come out of Austin as well, didn't he?
Yes. Yeah, Austin, Texas is certainly, well, let's face it, the entire Truth and Conspiracy universe is centered around that city. There's no question. So, but anyway, I think we're pretty much out of time.
Yeah.
Do you believe it?
I believe it. It's gone by pretty fast, I tell you.
And I forgot to ask you, what do you think about Foxy Noxie?
I would shag her like a mad bunny.
Yeah, she's not bad.
Yeah,
I had some people email me and say, "Oh, you think Amanda Knox is hot?" Yeah. And they didn't think she was too hot, but
that one photo I found of her with the two sweater puppies.
Yeah, that's a nice photo.
Yeah, definitely quite shaggable there. I would treat her royally.
Not bad. I'm sure she's ready for it since she's been in women's prison for 4 years.
Yeah, you know what? It's kind of like one of the lesbians I hooked up with at one time said to me, I was like, I thought you were a lesbian. Why do you want to come sleep with me? She goes, look, I've been diddling and licking and doing all the other things we do for quite a while, but after enough of this nonsense, I'm like, I need a dick in me.
Well, there you go. I mean, it doesn't get much straightforward than that.
No, I appreciate that. I'm like, I will deliver.
Oh, that's good. That's good stuff. So, well, I think that's a good positive note to end the show on. What do you think?
I think that's a very positive note to end the show on. Lee, I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Maybe we'll do this, I don't know, sometime in the near future because I had a lot of fun and, I'm sure, a lot of people are not going to like this show a whole lot. So that makes
I think we'll be getting a lot of downloads on this episode.
I'm sure we will. All right, well, we got 30 seconds left. Thanks for coming on. And again, you can check out the Celtic Rebel show here on Oracle Broadcasting every Sunday night, 10 p.m. I think it's Central Standard Time. So,
yeah.
Yes. Okay, I got that right. Excellent. All right, we've got 10 seconds left. Thanks for coming on, and thanks for listening, everybody. And we will see you tomorrow. Take care.